We be live. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Guys, how's our audio? Let me actually check. Wow, everyone is here. Look how busy it is. Why is this more busy when you're here, Susie? I don't understand. Why is the live
What could
chat?
it be? What could it be?
Let
I
me
have
see.
fans.
Oh, Zaid is saying hello from Jordan. Hello, Dee's
Hello,
here.
BB.
Angel is here. Oh, and Angel just already right at the beginning of the show just gave us a major giant super chat. So yeah,
I
thank
know,
you so
Angel
much.
coming in big with a bang. Saying hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day or it's getting better. Well, I hope today's show makes your day a little bit better. We're going to be talking about a bunch of juicy stuff today. Not
Right.
really anything tragic, to be honest, which is awesome. Instead, we're just going to be
That's
talking
good.
about random controversies throughout the world or Islamists going to jail for a long time.
Oh, that's good.
Hopefully. I
I
mean,
like that.
some stuff remains to be seen, but we'll get into that. You know, that's something that we would celebrate.
A lot of people in the live chat are confirming that they have liked the stream. So thank you for doing that, guys. Please, when you like the stream, also in the live chat, tell people that you have liked the stream, so more people end up liking the stream, so that we could grow this channel. This channel is growing so fast. Susie, we're 200 away from 60K.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, guys, subscribe. We're gonna let's try to get to 60K maybe like before the end of this month. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So the stories, like, by the way, guys, we're gonna refer to our items as stories from now on rather than news. I think that makes it more interesting. Okay, so the stories that we're covering today, because we don't want to act like we're in a news channel, right? We're just like an opinion channel. So the stories today, are they mostly Islamic? Because we get some Christian today, no? Oh, because the French are no.
No, it's mostly just Islam today.
Islam. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, just Islam today. Good. All right. So, and you said nothing that tragic. Is it funny? Do we have anything funny today? I like funny, ridiculous.
I think so. I think especially the last two stories that we're going to cover are very subversive, like towards Islamic tradition or Sharia. And so I think that's going to be like very, very interesting to cover. Because especially if you guys are not familiar with some of these practices, it might not be immediately obvious like how daring or subversive some of these things that some women did are, but that's why we're here for. We're here to explain it to you.
Okay.
Armin, for example, you'll be familiar with the story, is the Ashura incident in Karaj.
Nice. Yes, I covered this story on the Persian. Yes, I covered this story on the Persian channel in huge detail. So I don't know what your angle is going to be on it. So I'm excited to get to that. But let's go to the first news, which is on France and the Olympics. By the way, guys, we're going to read the super chats between the news items. So yeah, so we're going to do this one, read the super chats, and then we're going to get to the next news. That's how it works. So can we clap? Yeah, can we clap for the first news? I'm just going to ask.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's our trick. All right. First news.
Hijab crackdown. France's Olympic ban sparks outrage. The upcoming 2024, well, it's now the ongoing 2024 Paris Olympics have ignited a global controversy over France's decision to ban its athletes from wearing hijabs during the Games, sparking outrage from human rights organizations and the United Nations. Amnesty International released a report condemning this policy as discriminatory and a violation of Muslim women's rights, challenging France's interpretation of secularism or laïcité. The ban has been criticized for contradicting the Olympic spirit and international human rights treaties. Anna Blus, I don't know how to pronounce this name. It has a very strange accent on it. From Amnesty International, highlighted the controversy of this. Excuse me, my headphone came off. The woman from Amnesty International highlighted the hypocrisy of the situation, stating, quote, "We find this to be very hypocritical to say that you care about women's equality and women's participation in sports, while at the same time effectively banning Muslim women who wear hijab and other forms of religious clothing from participating in these games." While the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, has confirmed that athletes from other countries can wear religious symbols, including hijabs, the ban remains in place for French athletes who are considered civil servants by the French state. This controversy underscores the ongoing tensions between religious freedom and France's strict interpretation of secularism, raising questions about inclusivity and discrimination in international sports events. So, okay, let me do a quick recap. So basically, it is well known and established that France has very strict interpretations of secularism, and this shows up most often in the realm of civil servants. And if civil servants are allowed to, have any form of displays of faith, and the answer is like no. And so, public school teachers can't wear hijabs, like judges, clerks, whatever. They can't wear a kippah. They can't have, I don't know, like a Sikh turban or a kirpan, like no religious symbols if you are in any way, shape, or form representing the French state. Over time, France has then moved this into the realm of sports. So we've covered over the years when there has been renewed controversy over France not allowing its athletes, when representing France in international arenas or international competitions, they're not allowed to wear the hijab. And this has been a source of great controversy, and this just extended into the Olympics, given that France is the host country. And basically, we've covered this before, like when France first implemented its policy that female athletes that are representing France and other international competitions can't wear the hijab, because they made all these weird excuses about how it's like not safe and can interfere with the athlete's ability to play, which I thought was so stupid. Like they were literally implying that there's going to be some freak accident where you get like choked out by your hijab when you're in the middle of playing football. I'm like, cut the bullshit. Like, just be honest. You just don't want this religious symbol.
Which is a good reason.
Yeah, but like, don't make it some like, oh my God, like a cartoonish imagination of like, I'm going to trip and fall, and then like someone's going to step on the cloth and I'm going to choke out on my air pipe. Like it just... that, because there were some people trying to like have that reasoning, and I was like, that seems like a total nonsense excuse. Just be honest here. And yeah, so this is extended into the Paris Olympics, and Amnesty International has put out a report condemning this, and said that it is not okay that France was allowed to continue with this, even though they are the host country. And I can give a little bit more background, but Armin, let's hear your initial thoughts.
So yeah, I don't like the safety excuse. That seems like a excuse. But here's a better reason for why France should be allowed not to allow the hijab on any of the people who are representing France, is because they're representing France. And hijab does not represent France. That's the whole point of you being there, is to represent France. And yeah, hijab is not a reflection of France. This is the most secular country on the planet. They're so secular, they don't even call them secular. They have another name for it. They call it laïcité. And you think that country that is so sensitive about religion, people with hijab are the best representatives of it? Obviously not. So yeah, ban it for that reason. Like, yeah, you are here to show the world what France is, and this isn't it. That's the reason why they should remove the... But I have a couple of questions regarding what you said. A couple of nitpicking here, because these women, so people were complaining about, like, you say about your women, you're for women equality, then why are you not allowing the hijab? What are you talking about? That the exact being for women equality is the exact reason why you shouldn't be allowing the hijab. Do you see these other women having certain privileges about what they get to wear because of their ideology? No. So we're treating you equally to the other women and other men. That's what equality is. Equality means you don't get privileges because of your religion. That is how. I don't understand the argument. You were reading, somebody saying, like, this is not equality. How is this not equality? This is you being equal to the other woman in the field. Can somebody explain to me how this is not equality? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't get it. Anyways, I have two other problems. But go on.
It's kind of this contention over France's interpretation of what is and is not religious freedom, and kind of the rest of the world, not the entirety of the rest of the world's interpretation of what is religious freedom, because obviously there are more countries than not that don't believe in religious freedom, and I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit torn on this, but it has to do with my contention has to do with the broader conception of this philosophy in general, and less about the specific sports. Because if you want to fight this, then you really have to tackle, okay, should these athletes be considered civil servants or not? Because in the realm of just, oh, should a judge have religious symbols? Should a police officer have religious symbols? Should a court clerk have religious symbols? I definitely feel way more sympathetic towards, like, no, I don't like that. But realistically, like, I don't know. I feel way less of an issue.
I actually feel more sympathy here. Okay.
It comes down to freedom of choice.
Yeah, this is not a violation of people's freedom of religion or freedom of choice, because you are completely free not to be an Olympic athlete, right? You could wear your hijab and not be an Olympic athlete. Like, how is your freedom of religion being violated? This is actually here's the thing: there are more police officers and more judges than Olympic athletes. If anybody is representing a country, on an international stage, is your Olympic athletes. This is like, these are the people who are out there. Their job is to represent this country. So if you're worried about a police officer representing the state and wearing a hijab, and that's another reflection of the state, well, this is the one time in 4 years that your country and your state is being represented internationally the most. If it makes sense over there, it obviously makes sense over here. You're completely free to wear the hijab, but not here. Like, what is that even? How is that even debatable? How is this a violation of your freedom of religion? You don't get to have your freedom of religion. That doesn't mean that you're entitled to practice your religion everywhere, and everybody had to submit to your needs based on your religious practices. You could practice them in your home, in public areas, in your mosque. Nobody is taking that away from you, right? A simple example is like, hey, do I have the freedom of speech to swear, for example? Like, can I say the F word? Is that illegal? No, it's not illegal. I have the freedom to say the F word. Is my freedom of speech violated if I swear at my boss at work and I get fired for it? No, that's not a violation of your freedom of speech. That's the freedom of your boss to hire the person who is not swearing at him. That's his freedom, okay? And this is your freedom, and that's his freedom. So do you have the freedom to wear the hijab? Yes, you do have the freedom to wear the hijab. Does the Olympics have the freedom to not allow you to be an Olympic athlete if you're wearing the hijab, if you insist on wearing the hijab while performing? Yes, that's their freedom. Also, that's their freedom. they're like, yeah, this is not what we want here. It's completely okay. These are completely in line with each other. I just want to also highlight. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I also want to highlight the selective outrage here, okay? Because these people that you're mentioning, they're like, oh my God, freedom of religion, discrimination against women. Were they, maybe they were, I don't know, you tell me. Were they also sounding like raising this outrage about the Iranian team where the women have to wear the hijab? Like, were they saying, were they talking about their religious freedom when women are forced to? All the staff of the women Olympic of the team from Iran, every single one of them has to wear the hijab. Were they mentioning that? Or is it only an outrage when you're not allowing the hijab? When you're forcing the hijab, because that's a more violation of your right than this. Were they outraged about that?
This specific report was only about France that they put out. I mean, the Amnesty International, for example, but Amnesty International in general has covered the issue of mandatory hijab in Iran extensively. But this specific report was just about France.
Over the Olympics, Amnesty International, over this Olympics, because I know they cover everything, but I'm saying selected, some things are highlighted more than other things, right? So here's an example. On the Olympics, are they also coming out and talking about women's rights and freedom of religion and the violation of all of that on the Iranian team, where all the women coming there have to wear the hijab? And I'm talking about the staff. No.
Let me do a quick browse to make sure I didn't miss it.
Okay.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Okay. Yeah, like that's what I thought. And also, even if you focus on the French team, do people get upset over freedom of religion when you can't wear a turban or a kippah or anything cross-related, Christian-related? Why is everyone gets reminded of the freedom of religion only when Islam all of a sudden gets involved? Can somebody explain that to me?
Yeah. Well, and this is something that I think is so interesting is that when you find because I was reading many different articles about this, and they keep on talking about how France's laïcité disproportionately affects Muslim women. And I'm like, I think that is such a false framing of the situation. It's that France has had this interpretation of laïcité for a very long time. They have, in recent decades, clarified it more and more and has become stricter and stricter. But it is the practice of hijab that is the larger display of religion. And so they're it is like, this is what it is. And then a new practice comes in that is more visible and more controversial than others. And so what is it disproportionately affecting? It has always been here. They're applying the rule. But because this practice is just more visible and more obligatory than others, then that means that it's disproportionately affecting the hijab. I don't think I'm totally articulating myself very well right now.
Let me help. Let me help. Laïcité was disproportionately affecting the Catholic faith before, when the Catholic faith was up in your life and your politics, until it wasn't. So the reason why laïcité is affecting Islam these days more, because Islam is trying to dominate your personal life and trying to get into politics. Obviously, laïcité would be aggressive more against the threat that is trying to be more dominant and is that is everywhere, that is trying to influence personal life and politics. What this is so oh, laicite affects Islam more. Laicite destroyed the Catholic Church's influence. What are you talking about?
Dude, yeah.
The only reason why he's focusing on Islam now is because the Catholic the Catholic Church has been completely, defanged by laicite. Like, look, go. I think the Catholic
they had to
Church,
take a step back several centuries ago. Okay, like.
Yeah, I think that the Catholic Church is crying, injured in the corner, and they might have something to say about. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe get back, maybe retreat, maybe stop interfering in people's lives, and then laicite will not have much to say about you. Maybe you are the problem. That's why the focus needs to be on you.
And
unbelievable.
Here's the thing. I think there is some room for criticism. Like last time we were talking about this, I can't remember what the result of our conversation was, but there was a lot of people in the live chat talking about like, well, you technically can have religious tattoos visible only if they're a certain size. And, certain little necklaces are allowed. And I think if you're going to have a good faith criticism, it's like realistically, Christianity is treated as a default within French society. And so it's not treated exactly the same way because it's like, like, for example, if you go to a public school here, this is not a perfect analogy, but like if you go to a public school here in the United States, we're going to have an extended winter break around Christmas time, but we're not allowed to call it Christmas break anymore because that's specific to Christianity. But we have now this extended winter break that just happens to fall over Christmas time to celebrate the Christian holiday. So it's essentially treated as a default. You know what I mean? Versus other religions, they're not going to have basically the school year structured around their religious holidays. Like, I don't know, if you want to celebrate Nowruz, you're not going to have a 2-week break in the middle of March, the same way that by default, everyone gets like a several week break around the Christian holiday. So it's a similar kind of issue where it's like, well, the society is structured around kind of by default holidays or practices that originated from one specific religion.
Well, the solution is not to bring in more religion. The solution is to make it not religion related. So for example, give people flexible holidays. I don't know, this many days of holidays that you could use whenever. You want to use it on Christmas, use it on Christmas. You want to use it in Ramadan, use it on Ramadan. You're an atheist and you just want to use it on whenever, just use it whenever. The solution to having religion is not to add more religions. The solution is to just reduce the other religions.
I think this also brings up an issue that is much larger that has to do with France evolving and dealing with this ongoing issue of integrating an immigrant population into the French identity, so to speak. And because France has the largest population of Muslims in Western Europe, I believe it's about 10% of the population based on what I was reading to prepare for the show. And there are, I read a lot of reports about people saying, I feel like I have to choose between being French and being Muslim. And Armin was saying, oh, well, you have freedom of religion because if wearing the hijab is such a big thing for you, you are free to not be an athlete. And a lot of people are saying, like, to me, that's discriminatory. I don't want to have to choose between participating at a high level in the sport that I love because I want to be an athlete and my faith. One shouldn't come at the cost of another. I can still participate at a high level and just have this practice and just move on and be an athlete. You know what I mean? And they're like, I am being forced to choose between these parts of my identity. And so, for example, this athlete that we have in the thumbnail right here, she's a French athlete that left for America so that she could still pursue her athletic career and then wear the hijab. So athletes, or there's many instances of people leaving France in general because they feel like it's incompatible. And so they just completely opt out. And some people would say, good, please do opt out. But over time, it is becoming a very difficult question of what does religious pluralism mean in France nowadays? And is this actually getting in the way of people feeling like they can be both French and Muslim? Because I was reading an article about like the issue of hijab in schools. And I was reading a profile of a private Islamic school in France. And basically, at this private Islamic school, because it's not public, students are allowed to wear the hijab. And it was all these students, mostly from North African backgrounds, talking about how they felt so much more comfortable at this school. And there were girls running around with hijab, and the boys and girls were together. And then there were girls not wearing hijab, hair going free. But they could wear either if they felt like it. And they were talking about how here I actually feel comfortable. Here I actually feel like I have freedom. Versus at the French school, I feel like I'm being told that I don't belong. And so that's going to be a contention that France continues to have. I mean, and the private Islamic schools are still mandated to teach the values of the Republic to students. They just have more flexibility about the issue of students not being able to wear the hijab. And this is a major contention. Go ahead.
All right. So so I'm going to keep my position is not that I want you to feel both French and Muslim. That's not my position. My position is that I want you to feel French and less Muslim. Less, not that they're equal identities. I want your Muslim identity to be less and less important to you, and your French identity to be not that they're both equally, not that we're valuing them both equally. In fact, one of them we are fighting against, the other one we're trying to promote. So that, there's that. And also with regards to, people saying, I want to be able to be a high performing athlete and also wear the hijab. Well, you can do that. You can still do that. But the Olympics is not, because they can't, she is doing that. But the Olympics is not just about being a high performing athlete. The Olympics is also about representing your country. So what you want is very small compared to what the purpose of the Olympics is, right? And again, we have to remember that athletes that get to compete in the Olympics are a very small percentage of the population. So if we're talking about participating as Muslim in activities, whether high-performing athletes or anything else, everything is completely open to them. This is a very narrow, small percentage of athletes that are picked to represent their country. The priority should be what represents this country, not what just a handful of individuals are going to feel, because we have opened the door for them to feel like they're part of this community, part of France, in so many different other ways. The fact that she has gotten to this, being a Muslim and getting this far, shows how so many doors are open to you as a Muslim in France anyways, for you to get this far. You not being able to take the last step and wanting to go to another team is actually you being extremely ungrateful. A country that has given you so many opportunities and opened so many doors to you, you just not being able to take the last step, and now you go play for the other team because of that, you're just being ungrateful. The Olympics is not about you. The Olympics is about France. With regards to children wearing hijab in elementary school, I am more in favor of what France is doing. But I'm always in favor of empiricism over rationalism. I'm in favor of seeing what would get these girls out of Islam, not out of their Muslim identity being their main identity faster, right? So if it's shown empirically that hijabi girls playing next to more children from a more liberal-minded parents playing next to each other will get these girls out of their Muslim identity faster because they feel free to come to school and play next to them. If that is proven empirically, I will switch sides. Okay, but right now I'm still on the no hijab in elementary school team, on that. But if it's shown, whatever gets them out of, whatever makes them devalue their Muslim identity faster and their French identity more, whatever gets us there faster, I'm in favor of that, because I might sit here and theorize and think this works, but if empirical data shows that I'm wrong, I will completely agree with you and switch teams on that.
Yeah, it's difficult because in this issue, especially when it comes to the schools and stuff, like there have been, and there is a documented trend of women opting out of certain forms of education for the sake of maintaining hijab. And it's like, is that what we really want? Because that's probably going to keep them more Islamic for longer. Like this is an issue we talked about when in the huge hijab controversy in India, in Karnataka, where because in India their ability to enforce these things is like totally different versus, I know, like France is really strict about like no homeschooling, no religious homeschooling, that kind of thing. And in a country like India, it's like if you're telling girls that they cannot wear hijab like in educational institutions, like that's going to be a huge impact on women receiving more education, which is more likely to help them find more opportunity, have more economic incentives that could ultimately like lead them out of a more highly conservative form of the practice. At the heart of this is kind of an contention with the fact that like Christianity is more of a belief-based system and Islam is very much focused on practice. And so just by its very nature, that is always going to be more highly contentious. And under a system like this, Islam is always going to take more of a hit, so to speak. But this is part of how the French government has decided to rule itself. And I don't know, ultimately, like you can make a choice to leave, although, the practicalities of that is very, like, I guess, class-based or opportunity-based, but...
Do we know that French, like, because in France, you don't have the option of not sending your children to school, right? Saying like, okay, so when we're saying like, for example, in America, you have little hijabi girls playing next to non-hijabi girls and they're having fun. If you don't let those girls not wear their hijab, it's not those little girls that will be upset. It's their parents that are going to be upset. The girls are going to still play with the other girls without their hijab. So why are we saying like, oh my God, look, this is so beautiful. The hijabi girls are wearing with the non-hijabi girls. Well, I'm pretty sure in France, where that girl doesn't get to wear the hijab, she's going to play with the other girls anyways, with the children from the non-Muslim family. They're going to have fun and play around anyways. The only person that is uneasy about this is the parent, not the little girl.
But this continues into the university level, at which point a young woman could voluntarily opt out.
It won't if you don't let them wear the hijab in elementary school, because now she's used to it. It will continue. It will only continue to university if you give her a Muslim identity. If
that's
you
not necessarily
away
true.
Well, I mean, if the parent,
we're already seeing that trend.
Not necessarily true. I'm not saying it's always true. I'm just saying this is the war between the Muslim parent and the state. If the Muslim parent is successful, then it will continue. If the state is successful in giving that child a French identity instead of a Muslim identity, then it will not continue to university. By the way, somebody is very disgusted. So, Susie, you know how sometimes people here disagree with you, and I just wanted to star the people here who find what I'm saying disgusting, so that you see it's not just you. It's not just you. Okay, it's me as well.
Oh my God, no, I know. You know, there are some things that France does along this vein that I frankly just disagree with. So, example, like, let me be clear, everyone. Like, I don't like the niqab. I don't like the practice of veiling the face for obvious reasons. But France patently banning the niqab in public, I don't think I can support. I don't like that much state
I
intervention.
support.
No, because the argument used to be it was about security, especially like during the early 2000s when there were terrorist attacks around Europe, like constantly. Well, not constantly, but frequently. You know, that's one thing. But then we had COVID, and then everyone was covering their face, and we were made to cover our face. So then there's this excuse, and then stuff like last year we talked about how France has banned the abaya in schools. For those who are not familiar, the abaya is it's basically like a robe kind of that it's usually long and has a kind of a tie in the front that that you know women from Muslim cultures typically wear. And they banned the abaya in schools. And I'm like, I don't know if I can square that because that form of clothing is not inherently religious. How can you just ban the abaya and saying that it's a form of religiosity, religious symbolism, without essentially profiling students on the basis of their background? Because if a little white French girl was running around wearing one of these long robes, would you automatically think that it's an abaya in a form of religiosity? Like, that's much harder to square for me. Stuff like that is like really tenuous for me.
I mean, an abaya is clearly looks like an abaya and not like a robe, so it's not that hard, to be honest. But regarding COVID, I don't see a contradiction here. This is a security issue, so we don't allow it. But now when there's COVID, now we have a bigger security issue. So in this meantime, that security issue is more of a concern than the other security issue. You know, the COVID security issue is more concerned than, you know, the terrorism security issue when it comes to the number of victims. And now that COVID is gone, we go back to caring about the terrorism security issue. I don't see any flaw in, I don't see any contradiction here.
I don't know. I just have some reservations. That's all I'm saying. Because I do have I call myself a libertarian sympathizer. I'm not a full-blown libertarian. Some of them I think are just too delusional for me.
It's good.
I'm a libertarian sympathizer, and so like that level of intervention of the government into private citizens' lives, including in public, not even within government institutions, I start to get a little bit wary about. I have reservations about that.
Jack, I didn't say COVID is gone. I'm saying the security concern to that level is gone. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Anyways, by the way, even if we disagree, Susie, you being sensitive about government overreach is amazing. Is important to be sensitive about. You know what I mean? I mean, this is important. Like, I'm glad that you're sensitive about that. Like, even if sometimes our conclusions are not the same, I see your point, and your point is important. Should we do the super chats?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. This is exactly what I'm saying. Kenny's saying, I love how you balance each other. Yes.
Aw, thank you, Kenny. That's sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, and like this is something that I continue to chew over, and I haven't reached a complete conclusion within myself. So you guys are really just seeing me think out loud and kind of mull over these contentions I'm having. Okay, so let's go through the super chats. Oh, Unicorn was saying you guys deserve it and more 100K coming soon. Oh, that's so sweet. Inshallah, we will hit 100K. The Atheist Republic army is growing, which is a good reminder to everyone to please like this stream, subscribe, If you are watching us on Twitter, because we always have a disproportionate amount of people watching us on Twitter, make sure to come follow us and subscribe on YouTube, where we cover a lot more content. And yeah, then you can actually engage with us in the live chat instead of these ghosts.
Yeah, we are actually growing. I'm not making this up. Okay, we are actually growing because you guys like the stream. It's the likes that gets us growing this fast. So thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next item. Gaysian American is saying, did you hear about the drag queen Last Supper? So Gaysian American is talking about part of the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics. Of course I did. How could I not? I'm considering making this a segment next week, like covering all of the backlash and butthurt against this next week. Frankly, my initial reaction is like, why is anyone surprised? This is the French. Like, if you are legit, like, oh my God, the French did something like flamboyant and subversive and like kind of hard to understand and like very bizarre and artistic, like shocking. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's the French. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is like a very American take, because I was talking to my dad about this and he was like, "Oh yeah, why are we surprised? It's the French."
Yeah, I mean, the French love their blasphemy.
Exactly. And he was like, 20 years ago, I went on a business trip to Nice, and we went out for the night drinking with my business partners, and we went to some bar, and there was an art show happening where there were a bunch of grown men dressed up as cows. So I'm not surprised by anything the French do.
Yeah, but it wasn't good art. Like, okay, so I love blasphemy and I like sex and art, and putting that together, I love blasphemous, sexy art, but I also like it when it's done. It didn't look good. I like sexy art when it uses sex in a beautiful, pleasing way.
You're just saying that because the woman was morbidly obese.
Well, I mean, I've seen Renaissance art of chubby woman that looks good. I just think it looked like cheap. It looked cheap. That's what I'm saying. It looked like you have like the Olympics. I'm assuming that there's like a crap ton of money behind this, and a whole bunch of advisors. I don't like this. Could have been done so much more elegantly. And it didn't look elegant. It looked cheap. It looked like it looked like a high school project. That's what I didn't like. I don't mind the blasphemy. I don't mind sex and art. I love sex and art. I mean, we have blasphemous art, which is sexy. That's what we do. But if I had the budget of Olympics and they asked me to do a blasphemous sexy art, I would have offered you something so much more beautiful. Like, what the hell was that? I don't know.
It's okay, guys, tell us in the live chat if you want us to cover this next week in detail, because I actually have a lot more that I want to say about it.
Is this guy swearing at you? Can we ban? Is that Mehr Bahman? Is he swearing at Susanna? Do you want me to highlight that and also ban that person?
No, I don't care about that. That's the least of my concerns. So let's go to the next super chat. John Bundock is saying, hot take, why make athletes civil servants anyways? This is a good question. And this was going back to what was that, Armin?
I want to ban this guy.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So anyways, basically they're civil servants in the sense that they are representing the French state in an international arena. But yeah, I think there was a little bit of contention to that. I don't really think of athletes as civil servants in the typical sense. Kenny gave a super chat. Thank you, Kenny, saying, are those Olympic athletes allowed to wear ideological symbols like political parties, etc.? If that's not allowed, use the same reason to ban religious symbols because it's also an ideology. And you're right. This actually is a good point in which we privilege religious ideologies over other ideologies because you are not allowed to wear ideological symbols in regards to political parties. You're only allowed to be like representing your nation. And other symbols aren't really allowed. Although
I'm angry. Can I
flags.
highlight that? Can I highlight that the person that I banned and I also comment on it? Is that okay? Because this guy is insane. Look at this. Mayor Bahman is saying, why not insult Islam? I don't know if I can say this on YouTube. Like, you swear word Susanna.
You can call me a whore.
What are you?
Armin.
What the hell is Susanna makes blasphemous art against Islam, the most insulting blasphemous art against Islam. Susanna makes the most beautiful, blasphemous, insulting art against Islam. I don't know what you're talking about. Susanna tore apart the Quran live on air, and
we literally have an emoji of me licking the Quran.
Guys, can the people who are members, can they use Susanna emoji with her licking the Quran? Can you guys do that in the live chat? What are you? She's braver than all of you. Oh my god,
dude, it's so funny. No, and that's why like it doesn't bother me at all because it's just like so. Like I know myself better. Like, oh, Susanna, you wouldn't dare say anything about Islam. And I'm like, okay, sweetie.
What are you talking about?
Also, I love Dolly, our amazing mod and member of our community, literally cooking, and I stopped everything to see who the fuck dared to swear at our Susie.
Yeah, that's insane to say. No, seriously, Susanna is the red line. Fuck off.
She must be protected.
Yeah, I wish I could highlight the Quran like that people. Guys, when I highlight your emojis, this is what shows. Guys, look at the live chat. It's amazing, the emojis.
But then if you have our emojis on Twitch, they actually show up properly on StreamYard. It's not fair. Okay, so Gasian American had a super chat saying, if I started a Voltaire Confucianism that celebrated French civic institutions whose religious dress is French attire, would that be outlawed? You know, if Gasian Americans started a religious cult and like actually had to force civic institutions to deal with the minutia of his esoteric ideologies, I would pay money to see how people untangle that. You know, my friend, I do not know what the Republic of France would do with a creature like you. Sid Dave gave a super chat saying, imagine leaving for the US from France because you want to put on a headscarf. Why not go to a Muslim nation? This is a Muslim attempt to run a parallel society. I don't think personally that one athlete that decides to go to UC Davis so she can go play basketball while wearing a hijab as an individual is trying to run a parallel society. Also, if you're trying to run an Islamic separatist society within the US, it's not going to be that easy. Now, we can have a separate discussion about how much Islamist financing is in the United States, which is a whole separate question. But
yeah, I don't think that criticism is valid. But the criticism that I think is valid is you being ungrateful to the country that gave you all the opportunities to become a great athlete.
Okay, so let's go. Then we have another super chat from John Bundock saying, I am proud to be an American with my First Amendment rights. That's right. Hell yeah, brother. Just America posting also, in the live chat.
Let me defend. Again, salute to you and America, but let me also mention that France gives you the freedom to wear the hijab, okay? But it doesn't give you the privilege to wear the hijab in everywhere.
Public
in
institutions, yeah.
Public institution and the Olympics, but all France also give you the freedom to wear the hijab.
Okay. Asian American gave a super chat saying France attempted to enforce a 10-day week once. In what context? Like a holiday thing? Or like, no, we're just making weeks 10 days now?
Yeah,
I
France
need
also
to know
tried
more.
to get off the Christian calendar. They're so anti-Christian that they were trying to get off the Christian calendar. That's what they were doing.
Okay, you know what? Like they make an effort to remove themselves from that. I'm not saying that they're doing it because, like I said, there is this issue of like kind of a historical background of Christianity being the basis for a lot of things, but they're making an effort sometimes to like step away from that. That's commendable. They're trying to be consistent, but making that big of a switch is going to be real tough. We're moving from 7 to 10. The rest of the world can suck it. Like what? The cat lady gave 6 shekels saying, Armin, can you explain what is taqiyya? Thank you. Quickly explain what taqiyya is.
Okay, well, I don't know if you want that. I could do an entire stream on this. And do you want the Sunni version or the Shia version? I mean, the Sunni version is not that problematic. It's not like the Sunni version is like, hey, if your life is in danger, just give a white lie and say whatever you need to stay alive. So it's not that big of a deal, right? The Shia version is that plus an additional part, which is a lot of Sunnis also have a problem with, is that you can lie even if your life is not in danger, but if it's in the benefit of Islam, right? But be careful with this, because most Muslims are not aware of this at all. Like most Sunni or Shia Muslim, like don't think like, oh, this means that I can never believe a Muslim. This is a scholarly thing that just a few Muslims are aware of that have studied this thing. This is not something that Muslims are like, oh, I'm just going to lie because this is allowed. Like it's not like that. Most ex-Muslims learn about this once they leave Islam. Right.
Yeah, and she's asking, is it connected to jihad?
Well, I mean, this was not that big of a deal in Islam. It was a huge deal for Shias living under Sunni rule, and it became a big deal because Shias were allowed by their religious leaders to say that they're Sunni so that they don't get persecuted by the Sunnis. So because it had such a huge utility for Shias, then it became bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was more things were added to it because it was such a focus within Shia Islam. I'm not saying some Sunnis don't believe in this and don't use it. Sometimes they do. It's just not a major highlight, and it's a bigger deal in Shia Islam. Some Sunnis have even similar views to Shias about it, but not that many. But it's not like a major thing that like we know that things in Islam that are influences Muslim behavior are usually other things, and they're all bad and poisonous and disgusting and problematic. But Muslims don't go around that thinking about this as much as, for example, being anti-LGBT. I don't know, being focusing on fighting for hijab. These are the things that are like occupying their mind in Western. Maybe now, some being anti-democracy, being anti-liberalism. These are the things that their minds are being focused on. Taqiyya is not something that they're thinking about as much. Maybe someday they will. These things usually shift, but not right now.
So moral of the story is don't run around accusing random Muslims or ex-Muslims of taqiyya because it makes you sound stupid and like you don't know what you're talking about. Frankly.
Yeah.
Because we see that all the time and it's so cringe. Sid gave a super chat saying hijab or whatever variation of it should be banned outright. No need to dress like 7th century Arabs and 20th century France. Also, main purpose of hijab is to prevent Muslim women from dating French men. I'm too much of a libertarian for this, frankly. Like, if someone wants to wrap their head, let them wrap their head. Now, if we can have a conversation about if this should be in the civic servant arena or not. But
it's it. Like me and Susie are anti-hijab, but we don't want to ban everything that we don't like. Like, what the hell? Like, this is too much government involvement. That you just like, oh, I don't like the hijab. Well, let's ban it. Well, I don't like sugar. Should we ban sugar? I don't know, but you can't. Should we have? Hey, sis, should we get government officials into every household watching if everybody is finishing their vegetables, because vegetables are good for you? Like, what is this? What is this with? Like, seriously, like you're sounding like a far right leftist with this level of government involvement in our personal lives.
And like,
I agree that the hijab is bad, but bad doesn't mean that it should be illegal. But go on.
Like, there are way more harmful culturally based traditions that I'm much more concerned about banning before we get to hijab. Let's start with circumcision. Okay, let's start there. We can go worry about hijab later. The harm of circumcision vastly outweighs the harm of hijab. Not that there is not harm, but like, come on, let's focus on what some big ticket items first. Okay. Sid gave another super chat saying France should have also made fun of Muhammad's night journey, but they won't dare. They only make fun of religions they know won't come after them. Making this accusation against France is such bad faith. You know who Charlie Hebdo is. You know that the French government has stood solidly behind Charlie Hebdo. They literally projected Charlie Hebdo cartoons onto government buildings, which itself was very controversial because it has a connotation to it, especially in regards to laïcité. So this is not a fair accusation.
It's not.
France is paid heavily for how principled they have been on the issue of blaspheming Islam. Many people have lost their lives over it.
Right.
And not even, and this is past the Charlie Hebdo attack. French citizens have continued to lose their lives over this. So this is completely unfair and really disrespectful to those people and the other people within French society that take a hard line against this kind of thing. To say they wouldn't dare. Come on. You know better than this.
Yes. And thank you for the super chat. But also, everything you said is correct, and also it's not fair. There's another reason why this is unfair to France, because when France stood up to the Catholic Church was not as toothless as it is right now. So they were standing against the Catholic Church where it wasn't easy. Like, you're like, oh, they're only attacking Christianity because it's easy. Well, when they did it, it wasn't that easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and also Sid gave another super chat saying, not a fan of male circumcision, but it should not be banned. It should be done by a doctor, not a priest. In Africa, it makes sense due to high HIV prevalence. My understanding is this whole idea about it preventing HIV and STDs is completely false. It's completely false. It is a non-medically necessary. In most cases, there are some rare exceptions in which
very rare
circumstances in which it is necessary. The vast majority of the time, it's completely unmedically necessary. I believe it's genital mutilation. I do not care about excuses or justification on the basis of culture, aesthetics, or religion. That is unacceptable to me. We find it unacceptable in the case of female genital mutilation. Under those exact same justifications, we find it to be unexcusable. So to me, it's really no different. It's really no different.
This is an embarrassing. Why don't you wait for me to give my opinion? Don't stop highlighting.
Oh, sorry.
This is an embarrassing position, Sid. What are you talking about? Imagine, like, you're like, oh yeah, let's make the hijab illegal, but you're when it comes to actual violent barbarism, mutilating infants, you're like, oh yeah, let's keep that illegal. Yeah, okay. Your priorities are completely out of place.
Yeah, and he's even acknowledging that no adult would get it done. It can only be inflicted on young children, which makes it so much worse.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Let's do it to you when you can't defend yourself.
Like, I literally do not care about, I mean, and this is my personal opinion. I do not care about any justification about why people need to get it done. I do not care about your covenant. This is a violation of that child's rights.
This should be criminal. People should go to
Yeah.
jail. The doctor and the parents who do both male and female circumcision should go to jail for this. And the doctor's license should be completely removed from anybody. This is what the law that I would support. The parents who do this to their children should go to jail, and the doctor should also go to jail and their license removed from them. For both boys and girls.
Yeah. John Bundak gave a super chat saying, Armin, stop your cultural himboism this instant now. He's calling you like a man bimbo. I don't know why. I think he's joking. Okay. A himbo is like a male bimbo.
Okay. But I don't understand the arguments here, so I don't.
Yeah, me neither. But it's okay. I think it's a joke. And I also love people jumping to my defense. The mother of our nation, defend the queen. Jack Johnson gave a super chat saying, are religious symbols on flags bad and against secularism, such as the cross in Nordic countries, the moon in Muslim countries, Israel's flag, and India's flag? Well, obviously, this is not the case for France. And this was like the real subject at hand because of their interpretation of laïcité. Wait, what do you think about?
I'm in favor of
Nordic countries are not 100% secular because they have like official state churches. Actually,
yeah, I'm against.
They're just
that.
Kind of an anachronism.
I'm in favor of removing official state religions, and I'm also in favor of removing religious symbols for flags. And people constantly remove symbols for their flags left and right, so it is done. So I see why not do it here. I'm in favor of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it will happen. There's not enough political force behind it, but if it happens, I will celebrate.
Sid Dave gave a super chat saying, I think it is the HOW do say that it reduces HIV acquisition by 50%. There is some data to support it, and they recommend it in Africa only. Again, I am against it.
Bullcrap.
Yeah.
Bullcrap. No, bullcrap. We had an expert on secular jihadists came and dismissed all of this. This is all nonsense. No, this is not true. This is
what's his name? It's Brian Ernst or something. I think that's his name. It's Brian Ernst circumcision. I think, yeah, he's done really, really good work on this. Oh man, I wish I could find his name so that people could actually go look up his work on this.
Just search for secular jihadist circumcision. We have a really good podcast with that guy. He goes over all of this data in great detail. So good.
Gasian American gave a super chat saying circumcision is a sin in Ruism because you're not allowed to damage the property of your ancestors.
I like how they call your penis the property of your ancestors.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Excuse me, this is all mine. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Okay. Well, it's where the next generation comes from, I guess. John Bunduck gave another super chat saying joke references to your art drag takes, Armin. Oh, so yeah, it was a joke. I figured that.
I mean, I'm not saying drag art is tasteless. I was just saying this one was cheap and tasteless. Not that you drag art could be done in a much more elegant way as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me, should we do a segment on this next week? Because I have so many thoughts on this.
Listen, comments, people, let us know if we should or not.
Yeah. And partially it's like I've been so surrounded by drag culture and drag history, like for the entirety of my adult life, that I'm like, get some culture, guys. This is nothing new. You're telling me something subversive happened in a drag show? Whoa. So let's go to the next news.
Okay.
And next story, excuse me. We don't
next story, sir.
But now that Armin, that you want to change it to stories, not news, we have a next news. segment.
No, we will say next news, but then I don't. It's okay. Never mind. Don't worry.
I know what you mean.
Next
I know what you mean.
news.
Oh wait, we just got a new super chat. Should we address this quickly because it's related to what we're
No,
talking
let's do it
about?
after this one. Let's do it. Is it about what we're? Okay, just hide. No,
circumcision.
Let's do it after. Let's do it after this.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Clappable.
Yes.
Next news.
Raise your family on jihad. Canadian imams unleash fiery sermons. In a disturbing trend, 3 Canadian imams have recently delivered inflammatory sermons promoting anti-Semitism and jihad. Imam Riyad Orzazi, Sheikh Yunus Kathrada, and Imam Adnan Abyat used their Friday sermons to denigrate Jews and encourage militant Islamic ideologies. Orzazi claimed that Jews, quote, killed the majority of its prophets, and asked rhetorically, what do you expect from such a nation? Regarding the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Particularly alarming was Abyat's call for Muslims to, quote, raise their families and their nations on the idea of jihad, while also referring to Jews in derogatory language. Kathrada's sermon portrayed Jews as the enemies of Islam and criticized Muslims who emulate them, stating, quote, today we want to be like them. They are the enemies of Allah, like it or not. These sermons, delivered in mosques across Canada and live streamed on various platforms, highlight the growing concerns about the spread of extremist ideologies within religious institutions. The Imam's rhetoric, which ranges from historical revisionism to outright calls for action against perceived enemies, underscores the ongoing challenge of combating hate speech and radicalization in religious contexts, particularly as tensions in the Middle East continue to influence discourse in diaspora communities. So I wanted to cover a combination of these because, you know, I love to keep up on my memory TV. Memory TV is just the gift that keeps on giving, and you can always find something juicy there. And there has been a series of Memory TV posting all these radical sermons all coming out of Canada. So I was like, let's just cover 3 of them in one, because my God. So, and this is important, you guys. Memory, for those who don't know, is an organization that exposes a lot of virulent discourse that happens across different countries. And it often involves translating a lot of what, I don't know, Hamas spokespersons are saying, or people like on Lebanese TV. And this is valuable because it's one thing to see what people say to the West in English. It is another thing to see for yourself what people say amongst themselves in their own language. So Memory is doing a lot of work of translating this kind of content. Now, they also track a lot of these activities and sermons in the West. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Most of this is in English. You know, they do have some Islamic and Arabic terminology thrown in there, which we can dissect. But let's just go ahead and watch some of the clips from these sermons, and then we can.
Which one?
Do we want to? I mean, let's do all 3. They're not that long.
All 3? Okay. So let's do the first one here. All right. So this is the first one.
Ooh, the audio quality is horrible.
Hold on, give me a second. Maybe I will do it. One second.
No problem.
Okay, I found it. Here's a better version. Let's do this one. What? This is also the same. Yeah. Here, I'll do from Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There we go.
What the hell? Wait, Armin, it still sounds horrible.
What? You can't hear it?
No, it just sounds horrible, like absolute nonsense.
Really?
Like it just sounds completely garbled.
Oh, can you share it on your end?
Yeah, let's try this. Okay, 1 second.
I think there's something wrong with StreamYard.
Really? Shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try it and from your end see if it works or not.
Okay.
Because I'm hearing it fine when I'm sharing it. Hold on. Maybe if I refresh maybe if I go and come back, how about that? Refresh my
No, let's just try it from me and
Okay.
see how things go. Okay. Oh, for the love of God, my computer. Okay.
We bring it on screen. Okay, no, it's StreamYard. Yours is garbled as well. So yeah, it's garbled. StreamYard today is garbled.
Oh, come on.
It's
Damn
okay.
it.
It's garbled. So it's okay. So what instead of listening to him, maybe you could just wait. You could just read it.
Yeah, okay. So let me then pull up the transcript real quick. And this is
No, you could read it off of the screen. You could read it off of the screen. I will play it. You read it off of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, read it here.
Okay. The Prophet said that this matter of Islam will reach the four corners of the world. There will not be one single house left in the entire world that has not heard of something called Islam. There is no God but Allah. Islam will reach the four corners of the world.
Yes.
They are mocking and planning. Yes, you don't have to pause it every time. I think I can read it fast enough. Yes, the Jews entered Palestine through the Balfour Declaration, and they will leave it by Allah's promise. They came to Palestine with the Treaty of Balfour, and they will come out of it with another treaty with the promise of Allah. They will be kicked out from it. Who promised this? Allah. Allah the just, Allah the judge. Yes, let's pause. Then why this killing of these innocent people? Allah keeps giving them chances. What do you expect? What do you expect from a nation that killed their own prophets? This is the only nation that killed the majority of its prophets. 124,000 prophets, 99.999% were sent to them. What did they do? They killed them. They disbelieved in them.
So,
what do you expect from such a nation?
So I think it's important to recognize how he's talking about Jews because not Israel, because he's talking about how most prophets, because Islam's prophets are Judaism's prophets, and he's saying that Jews were mean to their prophets. So basically, he's making it seem like this is something inherently wrong with Jews, right? So what do you expect from when he says this nation? He's talking about Jews. He's saying ethnically Jews have a problem. These are the same people who killed their own prophets. And I think he's also highlighting how God, when people are sinning, he makes them go deeper in hell. God has that. God, when in the Quran you read that when people are so evil, God gives them more opportunities to sin so that they could just drown in their own sin and go to a deeper part of hell. So one reason why Jews are sent so many of the prophets is so that they do kill them, so that God will have the opportunity to get revenge on them or something like that. So, but you go on.
And this makes no sense to me because, so obviously Christianity and Islam, do a little plagiarism, some copycat on Judaism. And I was looking into this last night. I have no idea where Islam gets this idea that they have had 124,000 prophets. There are not 124,000 prophets in the Christian tradition. Now, Jewish people in the live chat, do you guys have 124,000 prophets? Because based on my surface level investigation, this seems completely made up. This seems completely made up. So I was like, where are they getting this number? 124,000 prophets? Like this, there's not even something approximating this in Christianity. We don't really count our prophets in that way. Like in my understanding of Judaism, it's there is a lineage of prophets, but it's not nearly 124,000. And then I was looking into it, like the libel about Jews killing their prophets is very old, right? This is a classic Christian anti-Semitic accusation against Jews. Jews killed Jesus, blah, 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 blah. So this is like, from a Christian perspective, I understand the origin of that libel. But then looking within Jewish tradition, again, Jews in the live chat, please tell me what you understand from your faith tradition, because looking into it, I don't see much of Jews talking about how their prophets were killed. Oftentimes it's more in the context of there was a prophet that came to the Jews, and within the Jewish kingdom, there was a king that maybe persecuted that prophet, or maybe that prophet was persecuted by a ruler, but it was more to do with that king having a beef with that specific prophet than the Jews as a nation trying to kill that prophet. I was like, I think this is just completely made up. I think this is some like totally false Quranic understanding of what the hell Judaism is. So this always gets to me. I'm like, what are they talking about? Armin, do you know what this 124K
Yes.
prophet thing came from? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, when you say I think this is completely made up, as opposed to the other religions that are not made up, of course it's made up. It's religion. Okay,
I mean, yeah, but like,
yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes, okay. Okay, so what we learn in Islam is that the prophets that are mentioned by name are just the famous ones. They're prophets everywhere. Okay, because this is essential to have this many prophets. So many of them were not prophets. So many of them maybe like preached to just two guys in a village, you know, that are so. These are prophets who got revelation, who just talked to a couple of guys, never known. We don't know their names. They just died without anybody hearing about them. The prophets that are known are just the ones that God made known. But they're prophets in almost every nation, everywhere. There are prophets in China. There were prophets in ancient China. There were prophets from Allah. I don't know, in the among the Mayans, probably, like at some point, right? There were prophets in Africa from Allah since ancient times. That's the idea, but we just never hear their names. Most of the prophets came in the Middle East around Israel, but there are prophet. God made sure that prophets there. People have the, and the reason why they say that is because of the philosophy in Islam is that everybody had the opportunity to know Allah. Like there should have been opportunities to know Allah. So if you have this idea, like, okay, we just had a few prophets here, and those are the only people who hear the revelation of God, then how is that contradicts with the idea, like, well, everybody had the opportunity to hear about Allah at some point. So to fix that gap, like, well, the whole world would not have the chance to hear about Allah with this many prophets. You just have to introduce a crap ton of more other imaginary prophets. I mean, they're all imaginary, but just more imaginary prophets everywhere else, right? So that's the idea for why we have so many prophets. And regarding Jews killing their prophets, this actually is from Judaism, because Judaism is a religion that came out of Yahwehism, right? So Judaism originally was a religion with multiple gods, with a pantheon of gods, and then eventually evolved from polytheism to monotheism. But in the gap between, it was still polytheism with the cult of Yahweh, celebrating, trying to make people focus on worshiping Yahweh. And the prophets that were being invented during this process was the argument for it. It was that the reason why the cult of Yahweh became popular was because of all the hardship and devastation that Jews were going through. So the cult of Yahweh was trying to justify that, but you guys are being screwed because you're worshiping other gods and not Yahweh, right? So you're not listening to our prophets. You're like killing you're killing the prophets of Yahweh. You're doing this. You're not listening to them. So all this hardship on the prophets of God, which at that point was just one of the gods, was being written into the stories of Judaism to explain the hardship that the Jews were going through. But now Muslims have taken those stories and they're like, you're just prophet killers, right? So that's how these stories are connected and involved.
Yeah. It just makes no sense. In the way that you explain it, like, okay, I can see the evolution of the meme, but within the actual they're actually saying, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Wait, so let's go to the next video.
Oh, the next video. Okay, let's go. So I'm gonna do with no audio, so you could actually, I prefer listening to you anyways over these guys, so you could read that.
Okay.
So let me try again. See if the audio is still bad. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
The Shaheed has 7 blessings.
Oh, this one is fine. Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's play this. Why is it hard?
And so forth. They mock, and our messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the martyr, the Shaheed, has 7 blessings from Allah. He is forgiven from the moment his blood is first shed. Are we living this? That man who dies on the battlefield defending Al-Islam, defending the lands of Al-Islam, fighting for me and fighting for you. That man whom the media labels a terrorist, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses him. All of his sins are forgiven. Who can scoff at that? He will be shown his place in paradise. He will be spared the trial of the grave, and he will be secure on the day of the greatest terror, that is the day of judgment. There will be placed on his head a crown of dignity, 1 ruby of which is better than this world and all that it contains. He will be married to 72 of Al-Hur Al-Ain, the 72 virgins that they laugh about and they mock us about. Let's see who has the last laugh. Wallahi, the enemies of Islam. They mock and they laugh at this because they're jealous. Believe me. As much as they may mock. And by the way, if any of us who claim to be Muslims are mocking along with them, then maybe you be wretched like them. May you enter the hellfire like them for mocking the words of your messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Shame on you if you mock this as the enemies of Allah mock it. Whether they like it or not, this is a reality. The martyr will have 72 of Al-Hur Al-Ain, those maidens in Al-Jannah. And he will be permitted to intercede on behalf of 70 of his relatives. When the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, realized the status of martyrdom, and when they realized the value of the martyrs, guess what they did? They strove to be among the winners, those who would attain martyrdom for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I say, this was the way of the Sahaba. But also, right up until this day, those soldiers of Allah, those who are striving to defend al-Islam and the lands of al-Islam, whether it be in Gaza, in Palestine, whether it be in Iraq, whether it be in Afghanistan, whether it be in Kashmir, wherever it may be, they also appreciate the value of martyrdom. And so they are striving to attain martyrdom. The enemies of Islam, the opponents of Islam, they mock the mujahideen. They label them terrorists and whatnot. I warn myself and the rest of you, let us not mock those who are fighting for the sake of Allah. And what right do you have to mock them? They've sacrificed everything. They've sacrificed their homes. They've sacrificed their families, their children, their wealth. They've left their lands, all to defend al-Islam and the lands of al-Islam. They are fighting to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're fighting for the highest levels in al-Jannah, in paradise. And we think we can mock them? What have we done? What have we sacrificed? Whatever we have sacrificed is for worldly gains, temporary gains. That's what we have sacrificed for, not them. So don't you dare be among those who label the mujahideen as terrorists and so on and so forth. They mock them, but Allah honors them. Allah honors them. I beg of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who are martyred in His cause. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في سبيلك في كل مكان اللهم ثبت أقدامهم واربط على قلوبهم وأنزل السكينة عليهم وانصرهم على عدوهم وعدوك يا عزيز يا قوي اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان اللهم خذ بأيديهم وعجل بنصرهم يا عزيز يا قوي اللهم انصر إخواننا المجاهدين في غزة اللهم انصر إخواننا المجاهدين في غزة اللهم عليك باليهود الغاصبين اللهم عليك باليهود المعتدين اللهم أرنا فيهم يوما أسودا اللهم إنا نسألك أن تحرر المسجد الأقصى.
Okay, so two questions.
Go ahead.
Those who are striving.
Wait, let me pause this. First of all, this is in Canada, guys, for people who are new here. This is an Imam in Canada. One question, isn't this illegal to promote terrorism like this in Canada? One.
Right.
Two, why is he not going to Gaza himself if this is so good to be a murderer? That's the second question. But go on.
You have very valid questions. And I don't know what's happening if the Canadian authorities are asleep at the wheel. Because I know they would have taken action against other people saying other kinds of things. And this guy is probably the most notorious Islamist Imam in Canada. I've been tracking his activities for a long time. And for lack of a better word, the funniest part is that he is based in Victoria, BC. Now, Victoria, BC, if anyone's gone there, is like a sleepy little island town community in the Pacific Northwest. Like, this is literally like it's a pretty quaint little Pacific Northwest island town. It's bigger than other ones in the Pacific Northwest, but at the end of the day, this is an island town. And you have the most virulently hateful, like, Imam in Canada. I don't know. I want to know how he ended up in Victoria. I have questions. How did you end up in Victoria? I just want to know. I'm so curious. Because when you visit there, you're like, oh, this is so cute.
It's so beautiful too, by the way.
It is. I love Victoria. So that's a side note.
Living in a piece of heaven, and is like telling people to go die for the afterlife. Like, oh my God. But let me actually show you Victoria. But go on.
Yeah, and so he is one of the most notorious. He ends basically every sermon like cursing the Jews, cursing the atheists, cursing the infidels. You can go watch all of his stuff online. I don't know how this is still on YouTube. His YouTube channel is Muslim Youth of Victoria. Um, and yeah, he's just permitted to keep on preaching this stuff. And he's the most hateful imam that I've ever come across in Canada. He's notorious. He's done interviews and like collaborations with Daniel Hakigaju. He gives sermons talking about how it's like reprehensible that Muslims today want their kids to be Western, want their kids to be like the Jews, and they're going to be cursed because of it. It's absolutely wild. Like, do you have any idea how, as a Canadian, Armin, what's going on here?
I don't know. They're just letting. I don't know. This is. By the way, I have the laws. Let me actually show you where this person lives. Like they're looking for a heaven while living in, basically, like he's telling people in Gaza to go die for an afterlife while living in one of the best places on earth. Let me actually show you. What the hell? Why is this one low res? Oh, there we go. So look at these images. Okay, this is Victoria, BC. Okay,
I love Victoria. Oh my god.
This is Victoria, BC. Okay, this is Victoria, BC. This guy lives here. He's having the best of life in one of the best places on earth, and is telling people in Gaza to go die, and no matter how much they suffer, it's fine because they're gonna be given virgins in the afterlife. Like, if it's so good, why is he in Victoria? Why is he not in Gaza? Can you explain this to me? Why is he like? If I was Muslim, I would be in Gaza right now. Why would I miss this opportunity of martyrdom? There's nothing better, according to Islam. There's nothing better than martyrdom. There's no opportunity at happiness. There's no better opportunity at happiness than becoming a martyr. And there's Gaza is giving you that chance right now. So why are you here? Why not go to the West? Why not go to Lebanon, for example? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it is so it's very great for us because we don't have to tell people that people are out here saying this. We can just go show them this. I do want to show the last video, Armin, as well, because it's just too juicy. It's just too juicy.
Can I just read something regarding Canadian law? Because so Bill C-51 introduced a provision that makes it illegal to knowingly promote or advocate for the commission of terrorism offenses. This applies when an individual is aware or reckless about whether their communication may lead to the commission of such offenses. Okay, so yeah, we have this law. I mean, I could go into more detail, but I'm not saying this law is good or bad, but it should be applied while we have it, right? Like, why is the police not at this person's door, given that we have that law? Anyways, I don't know. Let's play this one.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not changing the status of any people, any nation, till they change themselves from inside. We have to start with ourselves, with our own family, with our own ummah, raising them on the idea of jihad, on the idea of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's only becoming how to defend ourselves. How to defend ourselves. Because the Muslims, they have to get up.
So, but let me explain. He's saying, like, why are Muslims just focusing on defending themselves? Like, why is the religion of Allah changing to just defensive?
Enough is enough. Muslim blood becoming the cheapest liquid upon this earth. Every Muslim now, he says, you know what? I'm not a terrorist. Who's the terrorist? Bunch of filthy Zionist Jewish
YouTube, we are against these views. YouTube, this is not our views. We're highlighting this person's disgusting views. This guy is racist, anti-Jewish. Please do not strike us down. We're just
This is for
exposing
educational purposes. This is for
Oh my
educational
God.
purposes, for the purpose of condemning these sentiments.
Yeah.
Deciding to destroy Muslim, and they're doing it willingly with no stopping them. No one stopping them. Some Muslim leaders, they agree with them. They want to destroy Hamas. It's coming.
He's angry with the Muslims who are anti-Hamas. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you anti-Hamas? How are you even Muslim if you're anti-Hamas?
From us. Shame on us. Muslim country, even those who claim that we are against Israel, we're supporting the resistance of the Palestinian people from inside. Just supporting them, supporting Israel and supporting the Zionists. When Muslim abandon jihad fi sabilillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate them, will put them down till they believe that they have no way but to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اللهم أيد إخواننا المجاهدين في غزة وفي كل مكان ذكر فيه اسمك اللهم أعل رايتهم اللهم أكرمهم بالنصر في الدنيا والآخرة.
Okay, so this is in Canada, guys, and how this is it's unbelievable. How is this
Not
happening?
only is this in Canada, but this is streamed to YouTube and streamed to Facebook.
Oh wow! And the YouTube channels are okay? They're not stricken down?
YouTube channels are okay. They're the content is up. It's up on Facebook. It's streamed on Facebook. But Atheist Republic is banned.
We have lost our Facebook channel. We have, guys. Atheist Republic has lost its Facebook page with more than 2 million followers. And we were not saying stuff like this even remotely at all. Not even close. How do they get to stream on Facebook like this and survive? I don't understand.
And this is what drives me crazy is like the gaslighting is we're over here talking about like, hey, these are sentiments that are being promoted and popularized in the country. This is happening primarily among diaspora communities. This is a problem. This is real. People actually believe this, and then turning around and basically being told that we're racist and bigots when you can literally go watch it on Facebook yourself. That's what really pisses me off. And also the double standard, the complete double standard. Like all the crazy authoritarian action that the Trudeau government took against the truckers versus this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what is a good point? Like, why this is a much bigger threat than the truckers. Like, why are they not raising the alarm?
The government went in
this?
and like debanked people. They froze bank accounts over that.
Yeah, they're like these people's bank accounts. Nobody's touching that. What the hell?
They probably have charitable status.
Oh wow! So they.
And it's more for those who don't know, in Canada, the nonprofit versus charitable organization is different than in the US. It's more difficult to get a charitable organization tax deductible clearance than in the United States. It's an absolute joke. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying not to shit on my northernly neighbors, but what the hell, guys?
Yeah, but I'm gonna say something in the live chat. Some of you are gonna agree with me, but I'm gonna highlight these and just gonna ask you what people saying deport them now. Deport them. They are Canadian. Tell me, okay, you know what? I would love to deport these people from Canada, okay? But what are you guys talking about? They are Canadian citizens. You are not able to, there's no legal pathway. You're dreaming. Can people who telling us to, like, yeah, if you could find me a way to deport these people, okay, sure, let's do it. But how are you going to, what are you just like telling us your wishes? Like, is it like, do you have like a genie somewhere that I don't know, that you think that just because you say something multiple times it's going to happen? How are you going to deport Canadian citizens out of Canada? Like, can you tell me? How are you going to do that? You can't do that. You have to come up with a different solution.
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
seeing people saying deport, deport, deport. Like, no matter how many times you say that, it's not going to happen. So maybe try something else.
Yeah, no, this requires domestic legislative processes. Like in the United States, there's bills and legislation that have been promoted or submitted that basically go through a process of, if the bill were to be passed, that nonprofit organizations that promote or glorify terrorist entities get their nonprofit status revoked. We actually don't have that on the books right now. Like, I would doubt that Canada has anything similar. And there's actually pushback against this bill from libertarians, because there are a lot of nonprofits in the United States that do glorify and lend support to terrorist organizations. And we have laws about different organizations using the nonprofit structure within the United States to launder their money to then go send it for material support of terrorists. And this is a big problem. If you guys want to learn more about this, go look up what happened with the Holy Land Foundation. Go and the Middle East Forum has done a lot of work to expose the ways that the nonprofit system in the United States is used to launder Islamist money, to the point that we think of Islamist money like coming in east to west, but it's actually at a point now where the money is going west to east. Actually, we have a huge in millions of dollars diverting from the United States into these organizations in the Middle East. And it's also to the point that like USAID, which is a government grant making program, is actually funding these organizations. If anyone would be interested in me covering that in depth, let me know. Because we actually don't talk about the financing structures of these kinds of things very often on this show, but there's a lot of information on this out there, and I have some familiarity with it. So if that's something that people want to like dissect and expose, like, we can dig into that. Should we go through these super chats?
Yeah, but before that, look at this guy. This guy is saying Armin is both a pussy and a tyrant at the same time. Oh my god. Says the guy whose only solution is deport, deport, deport. Again, I'm not against deporting, but you're not going to be able to do that. And some people are like, well, let's change the laws so we can do that. Okay, good luck. Let's see if you can do it. With what political? Let's see. Go ahead and try. Let's see if you're going to be successful at that. Like, unbelievable. Yeah. You guys don't know
politics. Believe in the rule of law and constitutionalism.
No, I'm okay with changing like laws, but like, you guys don't know. You guys don't follow politics. You guys don't follow the news. You don't understand the limitations of. You guys don't know the strength. I understand. I am limited by reality, and I know what we can and cannot do, and I offer solutions that are actually pragmatic based on what tools are at our disposal. Okay, but you just live in la la land. Like, oh, well, we can't. Let's just change the constitution. Well, go ahead, go try, and let's see what happens. Go ahead.
Oh my god, yeah, I can't get over it. Tyranny.
Tyrant. You're a tyrant.
Yo.
But also weak.
Yeah, instead of actually being politically pragmatic, let's just live in a fantasy world where we have easy answers. Sounds like a plan.
Yes. Yeah. Guys, the reason why this is a problem is because the solutions are hard. You pretending that we have easy solutions will make our job actually harder. You're not part of the solution. You're actually part of the problem, because this is complex. It's not like a button like, oh, let's press the deport button and all our problems will go away. Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Secular Sakai just gave a super sticker, $5 super sticker. Thank you, Sakai. And we have a super chat by Prashi that I'm going to get to at the end because it's a little bit of a diversion. Sid Dave gave a super chat saying, jihadists seriously believe their mythology for real. By the way, these are all Trudeau voters. People with such views vote Democratic in the US, Labour in the UK. Sid, okay, again, this is a fundamental misunderstanding about what a lot of these people believe. A lot of these types fundamentally do not believe in voting. A lot of them do not engage in voting on principle. I don't know how much people actually understand that. Like people like Ali Dawa, who's even he's on a different level than the Yusuf Cathadra that we were showing about. He talks about how he doesn't vote on principle.
Depends. Muslim Brotherhood's version do believe in voting. You do believe in using the democratic model.
I know.
Depends
but what
on the
about
brand.
like a real Salafi fundamentalist?
Yeah, some of them don't. Some of them say, well, let's use their methods temporarily to take them down, and then we'll get rid of democracy. So it depends on... So the Muslim Brotherhood will be like, yeah, let's vote anyways. Muslims will win the voting, but then their Salafis, we have different brands. Some of them say, like, we're against voting. Some people say, like, yeah, we're against voting eventually, but right now, this is what we have. This is the path that we have to use. Depends. It really depends. And some Salafis are just like, yeah, we're not involved in politics at all. Like, we're just going to go become extremely religious in our own, corner. So depends. Yeah. They're very different. There's different brands.
Some of them like hate the Democratic Party more than the Republican Party because they think the Democratic Party in the U.S. is just promoting degeneracy. So this is like a very
and sometimes they
way of thinking about things.
So sometimes some of them, okay, they decide to be highlighting, they be anti-Republican or anti-democratic, depending on what's the news cycle. So if the news cycle is about LGBT and women's rights and stuff like that, they will be more anti the leftist parties and more closer to the right-leaning parties. But if Israel becomes the news, all of a sudden they become more there. Depends on what's on the news more. Yeah. So again, I'm not going to get into the details.
Okay. Uriel sent a super chat jokingly saying every Jew is a prophet. Sid Dave gave a series of super chats, so I think I might address them at once. Saying 124K prophets come from some obscure hadith. They use that number to explain the existence of Buddhism, Hinduism, and non-Abrahamic religions. I've heard that before. Jews did not kill any prophets because there is no such thing as a prophet, and Jewish prophets like Abraham, Noah are mostly mythology, not real people. Well, obviously.
We're talking about the stories, not about real life. Yeah.
What is the myth that is believed to be true, whether or not it's actually has historical veracity? Okay. Another super chat from Sid saying Islamists, Khalistanis become a left-wing voter base in Canada. They are people of color, they promote their ideologies under protection of the left. Now, well, Armin, as a Canadian, I'll let you address this. Yeah.
No, here's the thing. Once they get big, so they will vote along the way. This is a meme survival. So obviously, it makes strategic sense to vote with the party that is opening the door, okay, and letting them do what they want to do. But eventually, when they become higher in number and they become dominant, then they feel like they don't need the leftist parties' protection because they have their ummah, the Muslim community's protection, and they will turn on the leftist parties because they are the most degenerate in their mind, right? So when it comes to LGBT and women's rights and everything else, they will turn more aggressively. So at first, they might be more aggressive against right-leaning parties, but as they become higher in number, they will become more aggressive against the very people who let them in because they are degenerate, LGBT-supporting feminist stuff that they don't like. And they don't need them anymore because they have each other.
So Dave is saying deport them to Nunavut and polar Manitoba. Okay, the idea that Canada is going to make their version of a Siberian prison camp is insane. We're going to have Canadian Siberia. Just go send them out there. Come on. Sid also said Islamists do vote left because Islamists do vote for leftist parties because right wingers will make it hard for Muslims to immigrate to the West. So it's the strategy to vote for the left. Okay, if we want to have a broader conversation about the Red-Green Alliance, about how particularly far left socialists, communists have essentially tried to remain relevant in a world that defeated Marxism based solely off of appealing to Muslim grievance, we can have that discussion. There is some legitimacy to that, but Sid, your statements are broadly painting the situation in a way that's not accurate. But I'm not going to.
I mean, it's on average is correct. If you an average is correct.
Yeah, I just think it's important to point out when there are details that are inaccurate, because how are we going to be able to talk about this and address it appropriately, you know? Right.
Yes, true. But so if you're talking averages, there's two different forces on the left, the liberal force and the, woke or Marxist or leftist force, or the woke force, right? So the liberal left is sometimes naive. So they get in line with Muslims, not because they're trying to, they're just trying to be sympathetic and protecting of minority groups, but they end up actually supporting Islam rather than protecting people's minority rights. So the liberal leftists are not, they mean well, they're just naive. However, the Marxists and the woke left, they actually recognize the destructive force of Islam, and they want it, and they purposefully use that against liberalism. So because Marxists are a lot more violent and able to use force if they need to, but woke leftists are usually very weak, and they are not. They don't like using force because they can't. Okay, because they are pathetically weak most of themselves. But they see the destructive power of Islam, and they see it as a weapon, they see it as a grenade that they could throw at the liberals, right? They see the destructive force of Islam, and they want to weaponize it because they're anti-liberal themselves, and they see Islam being anti-liberal as well. So they use the naivete of liberals to let them in, knowing that eventually this will become a force that they could use against the very liberals that opened the door to them. Again, not generalizing, just talking about averages.
It's a marriage of convenience. Uriel gave a super chat saying, I never learned Judaism as monotheism. My grandfather did not have one God and it's mine. It said, no, God is one, like Hinduism. Atman is Brahman. So you're, I guess, saying that you learned it as more of a monist tradition.
No. Okay, Judaism was always a religion that was coming out of polytheism, and it was always just a little bit, had the tradition of polytheism a little bit in it, especially when you read the Old Testament, okay, and it's God in the 10 Commandments ask you not to worship other gods. It doesn't tell you that other gods don't exist. It tells you not to worship them, basically accepting that there are other gods. So it's basically a move away out of polytheism, a gradual move towards monotheism, but still with some tradition of polytheism.
Henotheism?
Yeah, it's basically going from polytheism to a religion that acknowledges the existence of other gods, but says that they are not deserving of worship, to eventually coming up having a religion that doesn't even acknowledge the existence of other gods. But anyways, that's it. Yeah.
Gajan is saying, I will take 4 experienced, swarthy, muscle zaddies over 72 inexperienced virgins any day.
Even if you like virgins, right? Even if you like inexperienced virgins, there's at some point a number that above that it doesn't make any point, and that there's some, when it comes to sexual interactions, there is something as reduced marginal of returns and pleasure, and that number hits close, like seriously, that number hits to 0 way before 72. I don't know what that number is, but it's definitely not 72. Like, I mean, if you have your 12 versions, for example, right? I could see why somebody who wants to go from 10 to 11 or from 11 to 12. But like once you hit like 12, like do you really now need like another one? Like how is that going to change your, you know, the utility of it? I don't understand. Like even let's say, okay, fine, 20. Like once you have 20, do you really need 21? Like how is that going to make you happier? I don't.
Well, and then also, isn't the construction that you essentially are getting a new one every night, and this goes into eternity, and their hymens actually grow back?
Well, I mean, if they're supposed to be virgins, that means their hymens will grow back, right? That's the logical conclusion. Right.
Yeah, I think this is like a deflowering fetish.
Yes.
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 Yeah. Garkad.
By the way, guys, they don't mean grapes. People who say they mean grapes, they don't mean grapes. But go on.
Oh, that's a whole different wormhole. Garkad Defense System gifted 10 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you for the generosity. And welcome all our new members to Satan's Minions. Cajun American is saying, did you hear about Trump's comment of Christians just have to vote one more time and then they'll fix it so they'll never have to vote again?
Yes,
this was
I heard that.
I heard about it. I didn't actually go listen to the clip itself.
So if I listened to it a couple of times, did he say he's not a Christian in that same quote? Can somebody confirm this to me? Because I listened to it like 20 times and it sounded like Trump just, maybe I'm mishearing things, but in that same quote, it seems like Trump acknowledged that he's not a Christian. Did you guys hear the same thing, or am I imagining things? Can somebody confirm this for me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, there's multiple neck snapping moments. You're like, excuse me, what? Sid Dave said Muslims in India also vote left for protection of Sharia law. Vote for the candidate who's best in position to beat the right-wing BJP candidate. Now, if we want to talk about, oh my God. Yeah, the Indian left drives me a little bit crazy, in which like they're like, oh, we're trying to change Muslim personal law so that child marriage isn't allowed anymore, and that there's no gray zone in the law that could maybe be used to permit child marriage, and essentially the RAPE of young girls under the guise of these marriage structures, blah, blah, blah. And the left is like, this is discrimination against Muslims. Stuff like that is absolutely sorry, I have to be careful with my language. Smooth-brained. It's smooth-brained. And I hate it. So it really depends on the context in the country, and in certain circumstances, I agree with you. Uriel gave a super chat saying Islam a minority? That's wild. Uriel, this is not wild. There are many countries around the world in which Muslims are a minority religion. Globally, that's not the case. In many other countries, that's not the case. But Armin, you're muted.
It's kind of it's kind of saying like, oh, Christian a minority? That's wild. In the United States, Christians are not a minority. Well, yeah, but in Egypt they are. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. People can be, disparately populated throughout the world. Sid also said Trump is not a religious person. Everyone knows that. That's true. And the people that think that are delusional.
That's not my point, Sid. Of course, I know that Trump does not take religion seriously, but he acts like he pretends that he's a Christian. If Trump has said, I'm not a Christian, a lot of you in the live chat acted like you're not surprised. You're not surprised because you don't pay attention. Trump not being Christian is not a surprise. Trump announcing, if he did, Trump announcing that he's not a Christian, that is a surprise. That is a huge news. There's something between like what we know and something that is confirmed and said. That it would be, if you're not surprised by Trump announcing that he's not a Christian, then you're not paying attention.
And the last super chat was from Prashi during the last segment when we were talking about circumcision and stuff. Prashi is saying, how can you be against circumcision but not against trans surgeries? Transgender surgeries are worse, total destructive of reproductive and urinary systems. Personally, I'm against gender affirming care for minors. Personally, if you're an adult, that's a different situation. If adult wants to go get circumcised, they can go do that. I'm against this for children. I used to have a different opinion based on the weight of evidence that has come out recently and the weight of his systemic reviews. I'm completely against this for minors. So I'm being consistent.
Yeah, how are we being let's clarify. Me and Susie are not against circumcision for adults. As an adult, if you want to go get circumcised, go ahead and do it. We're against circumcision on children and especially infants. And we are consistent because we're also against trans surgeries on children and infants. As an adult, you could go get trans surgery, and as an adult, you could go get circumcision. So we are completely consistent here. So what is the inconsistency? Yeah, tell us. How are we Yeah. So tell us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to, and we can really give a big clap for this. We can really give a big clap for this. Next story.
Hey,
Zayd.
Zayd.
Pause. Big pause. Whoa. Whoa, buddy. Whoa.
Read that. That's cute. That's funny.
Give me back my Woody hoodie. That makes me a little bit sad.
Oh.
Joanna is saying trans surgery for minors doesn't happen. That's not true. They have happened.
Yeah.
Lots of them have happened.
They do have.
Lots of them have happened. Double mastectomies happen. Bottom surgery has happened for minors. It has happened. I'm not saying it's common, but it does happen.
Yeah, saying it doesn't, like, you have to be like completely. It takes just a little bit of research to know that it happens. Maybe make a claim. Maybe say it's not common. So that's a claim that you could support. Saying it doesn't happen is absolutely wrong. Yeah. All right. So can we clap for the next news?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Next news.
The UK's most notorious Islamist Imam faces life in prison. The notorious British Islamist preacher Amjad Chowdhury has been convicted of terrorism charges in London, marking a significant victory for counter-terrorism efforts in the UK. The 57-year-old British Pakistani was found guilty of leading the banned terrorist group Al-Muhajirun, being a member of a prescribed organization and organizing support for such groups. Chowdhury, who faces life in prison, had long been a controversial figure in the UK, known for his radical views and previous imprisonment for supporting ISIS. The conviction resulted from a complex international investigation of the Five Eyes agencies, involving multiple law enforcement agencies across multiple borders. Dominic Murphy, head of the Metropolitan Police's Counter-Terrorism Command, emphasized the importance of this conviction, stating, quote, "I have no doubt that these convictions have left communities here in London, but also right across the UK and beyond, much safer." Murphy also noted that Chowdhury's quote-unquote radicalizing impact has led individuals to conduct terrorist attacks or travel for terrorist purposes. This case highlights the ongoing challenges in combating extremism and the far-reaching consequences of radical ideologies in the modern world. So, we can celebrate this. Amjad Chowdhury is an extremely corrosive and toxic force in the UK. People from the UK will know who he is. He's been very active for the past 20 years. He first really became very notorious for praising the 9/11 attackers and mobilizing Islamist sympathizers, Islamist groups around the UK for many, many years. And Armin actually in the show notes, I included a video where we can watch the footage of his arrest, because we covered last year. I wanted to cover the story because last year we talked about when he was arrested. We talked about when he was being charged, and now he has been found guilty. And the sentencing is due to happen on the 30th. So he hasn't been sentenced yet. He is facing a life sentence. I don't know if he will. Hopefully he will, because last time he was convicted and sent to jail for supporting ISIS, he was given, I believe, a 5-year sentence. And then he was let free from prison, like after only serving half of his sentence. I don't understand why. Because that sends like such a soft message. They didn't even make him serve his full sentence last time. So
okay.
Go ahead.
And what are the charges again?
The charges are he was found guilty of leading a banned terrorist group, being a member of a prescribed organization, and encouraging support for prescribed organizations.
Okay, hold on. Let me actually. Oh, never mind.
Because Al-Muhajirun was banned in 2010, and then they were operating this group under like 50 different aliases in the years since.
All right, so ready? This is the video of his arrest?
Yeah, it's only, it doesn't go all the way. Like it's not all 10 minutes of this clip. It's only like the first few minutes or so. So we don't have to watch the whole thing.
Okay, good.
Stand back. Hold your hands.
Wait, there's no audio. Hold on. Was there audio for you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. 1 second. Let me bring it back up.
Stand back. Hold your hands up. Show me your hands. Show me your hands, please. Come over here. Come over.
Anja, I am arresting you under Section 41 of the Terrorism Act 2000, as I suspect that you are a terrorist and involved in the commission, preparation, and instigation of acts of terrorism.
So that was the main clip.
Okay, that's great. Let me actually bring this one back.
Yes.
So people might say, how do you respond to this? Because me and you are free speech maximalists, and I have a response to this. I celebrate this arrest and I support it. And I am also a free speech maximalist. So does what I'm saying here not contradict me supporting this arrest? Because he himself did not participate in any act of violence. He was just advocating for these things. As a free speech maximalist, how could I support his arrest?
Well, because this is not purely a matter of free speech. This is a matter of him organizing groups involved in terrorist activities. That's completely different. It's also about his actions, not just what he's saying.
Right, because me and you as free speech maximalists, that means that we're not free speech absolutists. That means there are certain limitations. Organizing terrorist activity is one of those. Direct threat of violence, direct incitement of violence is one of those limitations. And this guy has gone, in fact, if anything, this guy should have been arrested a long time ago. Like not just based on UK, the limited UK free speech laws, even based on United States free speech laws, which is much higher than the UK, this person should have still been arrested because this person is organizing terrorism and making direct incitements to violence. Obviously, that is not protected under free speech. And this guy should have been arrested ages ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has been linked to influencing multiple people for joining ISIS and multiple terrorist attacks that have actually claimed the lives of British citizens. So the activities of this man are of extreme importance to the security of British citizens. That's not anything that's up for debate. Now, There's many other details about the nature of his charges and what he was found guilty of. But at the end of the day, there was a group that was banned by the United Kingdom for being a terrorist organization, and he continued to work in the furtherance of that group under many different names and aliases. This is beyond just his freedom to say things. This is also about his behaviors, and if you are involved in behaviors and acts that are illegal. It goes far beyond just free expression.
Yeah. Well, this is he going to stay in prison, or is he going to find a way to get out? Like, can you tell us that?
I have no idea. He's going to be sentenced in a few days. He hasn't been sentenced yet. He's facing a life sentence. I hope he receives a life sentence. I still don't understand, and I need to look more into how he got out of jail before serving his full sentence last time. Besides the fact that his sentence was only 5 years, I have concerns. And yeah, so we'll see. It remains to be seen. We have to wait a few more days for him to be sentenced.
Do you think there's a shift happening here in Europe? Like, or are we just being too optimistic? Like in Germany, we saw them just a police raid on the Blue Mosque. You know, the police just raiding in the mosque from the Shia mosque, which is the headquarters of the Islamic Republic. And that we were very happy with that. In UK, we're saying this guy being finally arrested, and we also see the EU is endorsing pushback laws regarding the refugees, which is a violation of international law, but they're going with it anyways, acknowledging that this is a violation of international law, but we're going to, like, EU is endorsing something that they accept that it's a violation of international law, but they're going to do it anyways because they think that their border security is, like, the migration situation is just getting out of hand. So do you see like a shift happening in Europe, or is this just not that much?
I mean, it seems like it, but I have a hard time discerning how much of it is a genuine shift and how much of it is certain politicians essentially noticing how much, basically trying to retain their own power. I don't know how much of it is, but that's politics. You know, that's baked into the cake.
Yeah, retaining their own power shift because they want to retain. No, yeah, but that's not a contradiction, because Europe is tired of this level of migrants and this level of Islam. So to retain your power, you have to reflect all these people complaining. So maybe that's why we're seeing a shift, right?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I firmly believe that it is a first order principle for countries to be able to say yes or no into who enters their country. Completely beyond, like, this is just like a foundational level of how a country operates, right? Regardless of any like ideology, ethnicity, religion, background, whatever. It is a fundamental aspect of how you rule your country to be able to approve or deny people the ability to enter that country. That shouldn't be so controversial unless you're just someone that actually believes in open borders, like you're an anarchist or a libertarian or something, or like a hardcore libertarian. So at the end of the day, if these countries, again, you're a little bit more familiar with this than I am, are making the decision that we need to get back to this like first order, and we need to return to this and make sure that we can establish this with as a nature of just frankly running a country. I don't know. I can see why there's an important trend, a big trend towards that.
Yeah. So, by the way, the pushback laws are laws that says that. So, let me actually read this for you. This is maybe something that we want to talk about this on this channel. So, pushback laws are a set of state measures that force refugees and migrants back across a border without considering their individual circumstances or allowing them to apply for asylum. So this is a violation of international laws, but the EU is going for it, right? And this is huge, and it's not being talked about. This is just happening. Like, this is becoming a bigger deal, you know, because to me this is a huge endorsement of Israel's measures in the West Bank. Because if the EU gets to violate international law because it says, well, the international law does not reflect the reality of the survival of our nation states, I think Israel can now come around and say, like, well, thank you for setting that precedent, because my settlements in the West Bank might be an violation of international laws, but I need to worry about my survival more than adhering to international law. So again, I don't know if people want to have that discussion. Let me know if you're interested in.
Yeah, that's a much bigger. It'd be interesting to talk about that with you later, because I do have concerns about a policy that is that broad.
Yeah, well, I mean,
serious concerns about a policy that is that broad.
I know, but if EU is going for it, it shows that it must make some rational sense that the migrant-friendly EU is going for pushback laws. This must mean that this is a matter of survival. Anyways.
So Jack Johnson, actually, let's address that in a second. Let's go with Gasians first, because it's more relevant. Gasian gave a super chat. Thank you, saying residency/citizenship credit scores.
Well, we already.
Well, there basically are. Yeah, there are countries that do this. Like the Austrian visa system is based off of points. It's a point system.
I mean, even if you don't literally count points, you're still technically based on points. Residency and citizenship is based on certain behavior and values that you have, and certain principles that you agree to, and background check. So yeah, almost every country's citizenship is like that. Even countries that do citizenship by investment or by donation, they still do a background check on you. So you have to, you know, be a good person. Yeah. Anyways, so we already have that. Anyway,
Jack Johnson gave a super chat saying, what care for trans kids is fine, talking to a therapist, changing pronouns, why do some people support puberty blockers, and what does the research say? If you want to go dissect the research, I would refer you to go look at the CAS review, or the CAS report that came out of the United Kingdom. It is the most recent, most comprehensive, systematic review of the literature and research that we have so far. So I am not going to go in a deep dive into why do some people support puberty blockers and what does the research say, because I'm not like an endocrinologist. I'm not going to be able to communicate that as well as others. My understanding is there was a narrative for a long time that, oh, well, puberty blockers are just a way to put a pause on puberty while a child figures out their gender identity, and then puberty can be resumed essentially if they decide a different way, or if they're on puberty blockers and they decide that they do want to medically transition, then they didn't go through, say, an androgenic puberty that's going to radically change their appearance. So then that way it's easier for them to start taking cross-sex hormones and then more easily have the appearance of being the opposite sex. The problem is that there are very severe side effects to these puberty blockers. They are not reversible. That is my understanding. That is my understanding of the literature. I used to be more in favor of these kinds of interventions until I was presented with more evidence. And on the basis of that evidence, I changed my mind. And I don't think that it is a good thing for minors to experience, especially if you consider other down the line side effects that happen, such as if a male is on puberty blockers and then does cross-sex hormones, and then later down the line wants to have bottom surgery to essentially invert the penis. The problem is because that male did not go through a male puberty, his genitalia or her did not have the benefit of the growth of the genitalia that happens during androgenic puberty. So then if that person wants to have a bottom surgery, they actually don't even have enough material from the genitalia to then become the inverted penis. So even from the side of supporting these kinds of affirmation, these kinds of interventions, there are good reasons to maybe not do that kind of thing, especially if we're considering other kinds of interventions that may want to occur later. And there's huge complications that can happen when you don't have enough material for this kind of a surgery. You know what I mean? So it's very complex. In my personal opinion, what kind of care for trans kids is fine. I don't support medicalization for minors in this realm. I think that there should be exploratory forms of therapy that take place. I do not believe in a 100% affirmative model of care, which is kind of what is popularized now, especially in the United States. I think a solely affirmative model is not comprehensive. And I also believe that if a child is presenting with claims of gender dysphoria and discomfort with their body, there are many other aspects of the totality of this child's psyche and psychological health that also need to be considered and need to be addressed aggressively alongside their gender dysphoria, because there's a high correlation of other comorbidities of mental illness. There's a high correlation of histories of sexual trauma that also need to be addressed, that can be a huge cause of gender dysphoria. And this needs to be looked at holistically to be able to understand what might be causing this child to experience these great forms of discomfort. And it's oftentimes much more complex. And we also need to acknowledge the fact that kind of the best cure for gender dysphoria is like adolescence. Like there is a lot of evidence to support that adolescents will outgrow gender dysphoria. So that's why I think it is safer and less harmful for people as a whole to wait until they complete their development to a reasonable degree and can legally make these decisions themselves. That is how I have adjusted my opinion based on the evidence that I have been presented with. Yeah, that's a summary of my opinion on this at this moment.
You know what the problem with what everything you said is, Susie? The issue here is
it's just too common sense.
No, the issue is that you actually care about the children instead of being ideological about it. And people who are ideological about this, either from the left or right, will not be satisfied with any nuanced position, because from one side, people want to be transphobic. And from the other side, people want to say that anything that limits, just having unlimited access to children doing whatever without consent, people doing whatever they want to children. If you come in front of that, and if you actually acknowledge some evidence for how that might be harmful to children, you would be transphobic. But the thing is, whatever your opinion is about this, try not to pick your conclusions based on whether you're trans yourself or whether you're left-leaning or right-leaning. Try to actually see what is the best for the children. I think Susie, even if you disagree with Susie, you can see that she's not looking at this based on her political leaning or based on, any biases. She's actually trying to figure out what the answer is based on the evidence at hand. She actually cares about the children rather than virtue signaling from their left or their right to try to belong to a certain community. That's what she's trying to do. She genuinely cares about what is best for them. And she's also not denying the reality of gender dysphoria.
Oh my God, no.
She knows that that's a thing, and people being transgender is a thing. She's just looking at what's the best way to deal with that, not denying the existence of it, right? So
oh my God, yeah. And I think part of my pushback is that the affirmative care model that is popularized in the US today and was popularized in parts of Western Europe, and now Western Europe in many countries is radically changing to correct against it, is that it actually looks at gender dysphoria in a very simplistic way. Versus there are many, many things that can happen within a child's life and within their psyche to give rise to this. And it's just not automatically, oh, they are trans. Like it's so much more complex. and the history of trauma that can happen in a child's life, especially young women, young females, is something that I think has been really poorly handled with the way that the models have evolved. And yeah, this is again, this is based off of the evidence I've been presented with. The CASA review was so comprehensive.
It's also weird for me to say. It's also for me weird to suggest that some because whenever there is a new medical solution to a problem, there are some people who overcorrect, like with anything not trans related. People who try to turn this into, overprescribing something. My father is a heart surgeon. Even when in heart surgery, my father acknowledges that so many patients don't need a heart surgery, and the heart surgeon recommends a heart surgery to them because that's how they make money, right? So why is people, when we see this everywhere else in the medical field, like, are you suggesting that it doesn't happen here while it happens everywhere else? Like, what is so unique about this? Like, this is something that is well known that sometimes happens in the medical field. It's all over the place. So this is not unique. It will, even if there are good solutions to this, obviously you have to be concerned about it being overused or it being used in places where it wasn't supposed to. It's not ideological. It happens everywhere anyways.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so Sid Dave gave another super chat. Oh, and Allied Atheist Alliance and saying, well said. That makes a lot of sense, Susanna. Thank you. And I know there will be people that call me transphobic because of this. I know within myself and my history and the people in my life and how I have saved the lives of transgender people in my personal life. Like, I know it's not true. So you can call me whatever you want. I don't care. Sid Dave said, Islam is a supremacist ideology which claims supernatural validation. Extremist Muslims see non-Muslims as someone who needs to be under their subjugation. Yeah, I don't have a contention there. Sid also said, my view is trans surgery should only be for people born intersex. They are the ones who need it and not physically healthy people, at least not under 21. The issue of intersex is it's very complex. I also don't think that it is appropriate nor appreciated to conflate intersex issues with transgender issues. They are very distinct. The issues that affect the intersex community are very different. It has its own very complex and very abusive history. The things that intersex people have had to go through historically are reprehensible. I do not think intersex people should have to go through surgery. They should not have to go through surgeries at an early age and within infancy to be able to align with a cosmetic belief about what sex is, as long as their body can function as necessary. So again, I don't think it's helpful to conflate these two things.
What's the problem with adults who have gender dysphoria if trans surgery is the right solution for them, which it is for some people? What's the issue with that? We have scientific evidence that for some people who have this gender dysphoria, the best solution for them is trans, and we're talking adults, not children. I don't understand. When we have so much scientific evidence that for some people that's the best answer, why would you want to deny that from them?
Yeah. So the idea, like, if an intersex person in adulthood wants to undergo some procedures to more align with whatever sex they feel more comfortable presenting as, go ahead. That is well within their right. But the history of parents enforcing this upon children, often to their great detriment and the detriment of their health and their well-being and their psychological well-being, like, it's like a PTSD playground, the stuff that intersex people have gone through traditionally. It is horrific. But sometimes it can be helpful for maybe someone with Klinefelters that wants to look more masculine and they just have to take some testosterone because their body doesn't really produce it naturally. But in other situations, it is extremely invasive and very physically damaging. Actually, it's not actually physically helpful. There's so much variety within also intersex conditions themselves. I mean, it's a huge area of health and medicine. Angel is saying, once you become 18, you are a legal adult and you can choose the surgery. I believe it's up to you as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some
Yes, I
limits to
agree.
it. Though. Should you be able to chop off your arm if you want to?
I think you should. I mean, it's not a good analogy because chopping off your arm is not beneficial and trans surgery is. But honestly, I think that as an adult, you should be able to do a surgery to chop off your arm if you want to. Even to that point.
Well, damn.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're an adult and you want to do surgery to chop off your arm, you are a freaking adult. You should be able to do that. What the hell?
Did they
What's
get to
wrong with
claim disability benefits if they do it voluntarily? I don't know if I'm okay with that.
I mean, you're an adult and it's your freaking body. Like, what the hell? Like, why are you stopping what I want to do to my body? Like, yeah, of course.
There's a dude that wants to look
Not
like
that
an
this is a
alien,
good
so he chops off
analogy
his own
again.
ears.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and somebody saying Hippocratic oath. Here's the thing. Somebody says Hippocratic oath says no. Well, it's good that you're acknowledging that it's an oath and not the law. Okay, this is not law. Okay, it's just something from ancient times that people repeat. Yeah. Okay. Johnny's saying, Armin, that's insane. No way. Well, that's why I'm not doing it, Johnny. I'm not doing it. But it's more insane for you to tell an adult what they can do with their body. That is more insane.
Okay, so let's go to the next story. This is going to be fun.
Wait, we have. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I would just want to say, like, Marina is saying, "Lovely Susanna and handsome Armin." I just want to say, like, are you saying that I'm not lovely? Is that what you're saying, Marina? I'm just. Okay.
Sid gave a super chat saying India's right-wing government actually opened a university of trans and intersex people, helps them get jobs, health benefits. Quite admirable. Are you talking? Oh, what's the word for this? Well, in India, there's like a different conception of this. Is it Hijra? Am I thinking of the right thing?
I don't know.
Anyways,
but let's go for the next news. What is happening with my hair? Weird here. Okay. All right. Clappable?
Yes.
All right. Next news.
How a Dubai princess subverted Sharia divorce in a triple talaq announcement. In a bold move that challenges traditional Islamic divorce practices, Sheikha Mahra bint Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, daughter of the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, publicly announced her divorce on Instagram using the controversial triple talaq method. Triple talaq, a practice primarily observed in Sunni Muslim communities, allows a Muslim to instantly divorce his wife by declaring talaq, meaning divorce, 3 times. 3 times. Traditionally, this right is reserved only for men and requires neither justification nor the wife's consent. The princess subverted this custom by stating, quote, I hereby declare my divorce. I divorce you, and I divorce you. Take care, your ex-wife. This unprecedented action by a UAE royal not only defies gender norms in Islamic divorce proceedings, but also hints at marital infidelity, with Mahra suggesting her husband was quote-unquote occupied with other companions. The announcement highlights the tension between traditional Sharia law and modern approaches to marriage and divorce. Under Islamic law, women typically face more constraints in initiating divorce, making Sheikha Mahra's public declaration a significant challenge to established norms and a catalyst for discussions on women's rights within Islamic marriage conventions. So, Armin, if you've been with Atheist Republic for a while, you'll understand what this means. You understand why this is controversial. You understand why this is flipping Islam in its head and very subversive. But Armin, for those who don't know what this is all about, they don't know what triple talaq is, they don't know the divorce rights available to Muslim women under Islamic law, please explain this for people who need the background. And I'm going to go pee real quick.
Right. So in Islam, well, you can hear me while you're away, right, Susie? Because I want to know if you can hear me. I can't hear you right now. Yeah, okay, good. So you can hear me. So in Islam, guys, if a woman wants to divorce their husband, they have to go through a lot of loopholes. They have to go bring an issue to a judge, explain why the husband is not meeting their duties, and maybe the judge will be like, okay, fine, right? But you have to prove that the husband is not doing his duties as a husband, okay? And the judge would usually take the man's side. As a man wanting to divorce your wife, you could just say, divorce, I will divorce you, and nobody has to review it, and you are divorced. So now the issue with triple talaq or triple divorce, there are disagreements about this. It's either, so here's the thing: if you divorce your wife, and then you're like, you know what, I regret, I want to remarry her. Then this is actually the correct version. The Pakistan version is weird, right? So the correct version is like, let's say you're my wife, I divorce you. I'm like, I made a mistake. Let's remarry. So you can remarry. Then a second time, you're like, I divorced my wife, and I want to get remarried again. And then a third time, I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. I should divorce you, and I divorce you, and then I regret the third divorce again, and I want to remarry you. Now I can't. Islamically, I cannot marry you unless I find somebody to come and fuck my ex-wife. I'm not kidding. My wife. This is completely based on the Quran and the Hadith and everything. Okay, somebody has to come and have sex with you so I can marry you again, because you have to go through a marriage, another marriage, and consummate that marriage. Some people are saying, "Wait, what?" Right? Yes. Yeah, this is Islam, guys. I'm not making this up. So this is the logic behind this is to protect the sanctity of marriage, because it seems like me and this woman, we're not taking marriage very seriously. Just marrying and divorcing and marrying and divorcing, right? So to avoid all of this marrying and divorcing, the third time I divorce this woman, the only way I could marry her again is for her to marry another man, and then they divorce, and it goes back to it's a reset. Okay. It will reset the whole thing, and then I could go back to number one, right? So this is why in Iran this has become an industry for people who their job is to come and fuck your wife. It's actually a job title, because sometimes when you have divorced your wife for the third time and you're looking for a man to marry your wife and have sex with her, so then he divorces her and then you could remarry her, sometimes they fall in love with your wife and they will refuse to divorce her after. Or sometimes, this is very well known, sometimes they trick you. They ask you for a certain amount of money, and then they marry you, and then like, aha, now your wife is mine. If you want a divorce, the price just tripled, right? So there are certain people who their job is to marry women, have sex with them, and then divorce them so that you could remarry them. They have a title. I forgot what the title of their job is. And people, and even they that who do this for professionally, sometimes you just bring them a wife that is just too hot, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to retire from this business. I'm going to keep this one. So it is a very dangerous. It happens. Like, we have so many stories of some people, like, this guy was so reliable. He had so many good reviews. He came with so much recommendations. Why is he keeping my wife? Like this is like so, this is the thing, right?
The problem is that this also spreads a lot of disease in certain countries because they have to actually have sex. And they're having like unprotected sex with these people that are like hired to fuck them. Like my understanding is that they're not allowed to use protection. Like they have to consummate the marriage. And a lot of women get exposed to
Islamic.
They get
condoms
HIV
are not Islamic.
They're like spreading HIV to your wife off of this stuff. It's so bizarre. And you know, Abdullah Samir recently had an amazing post on his Facebook, basically dissecting how Islam's perception of marriage is such a joke, and how, you know, the practice of essentially like Shia prostitutes with the temporary marriages is its own like very specific Shia thing, but Sunnis also have their own version of this. I forget the name, but in which you can get married and basically have none of the necessities of fulfilling the rights of a husband.
Yes. So wait. I wasn't done. So this is why a lot of mullahs in Iran will say this is why you shouldn't go to you can trust a mullah. This is why you shouldn't get people to have sex with your wife that are just people who have made a career out of this without being a mullah, right? And this is why some mullahs say like you should just bring your wives to us to have sex with, because you can trust a mullah. We're religious. We're not gonna like keep your wife, right? So mullahs are competing with people who are non-mullah wife fuckers, right? This is a competition between mullahs and non-mullahs, right? In Iran. And some people are like, yeah, you could only trust a mullah to fuck your wife. You should not give this to other people. And this is actually a thing. But the thing with Pakistan, the thing with Pakistan is that, and some other places in modern times, is that they just speed run through the 3 talaqs, through the 3 divorces to just show how serious you are, right? So this is not something that people used to do in ancient times, but sometimes you're just so angry with your wife that you don't divorce her and marry her and divorce her and marry her and divorce her and marry her. You just divorce her 3 times in a row. And there are a lot of Islamic scholars that say like, wait, you cannot do that. The whole triple talaq thing is divorcing, marrying, divorcing, marrying, divorcing, marrying. You cannot just do all 3 of them in one go. And some Islamic scholars, some weird ones, they're like, no, you actually can do that. Like, and some people, and this is the thing in Pakistan, people are like, talaq, talaq, talaq. They're like, oh my God, I just triple divorced you. And the reason why they do that, because they're like, I'm so angry with you that I'm so sure that I want to get rid of you, that I'm going to do this. I'm going to speed run through the 3 divorces, meaning that the only way I could get you back is if you have sex with another man. So that's how serious the triple talaq is. Okay. And that's why, and some men in Pakistan, for example, regret that. They're like, oh my God, I just triple talaq my wife. Wow, no, I regret that. I was drunk or whatever. Now, if I want her back, somebody has to have sex with her. So, and this is a huge debate within the Islamic community, whether you can just triple talaq somebody or you have to have marriages in between them. So what this story is here, which is weird and new bid'ah here, is now we're seeing a woman triple talaqing her husband. So this is now a new chapter in Islamic history. So yeah, how right.
I love it though, because it's very I just like things that are subversive like this. Yeah, this is the weirdest form of swingers I've heard of. It's true. And you know, so I put in the live chat the post that Abdullah Samir did unpacking the Sunni practice of misyar and the issues with it, and ultimately how Islam is overly legalistic and kind of just makes a mockery of the actual concept of marriage. And I'd really encourage people to read this. It's really, really good. But also Abdullah Samir, also known as the Friendly Ex-Muslim, has made an amazing video about when he was a very strictly practicing Muslim, how he triple talaqed his wife and the damage that it did to his marriage.
He did? Oh
Um,
wow.
it's a very, very powerful and interesting video because he didn't do a 3-for-1 triple talaq combo. It was like over a series of time or even years.
Oh.
But he made a whole video reflecting upon what he did as a Muslim in this practice and how it was so damaging to his relationship. And I think what I really like about Abdullah is like he's so like reflective and very honest.
Yeah. By the way, Islam is very friendly to men who might have that fetish. It seems like people are pointing that out. Maybe people like, I triple talaq you again, and she's like, oh yeah, I know where this is going. Maybe this is the thing that they have together. They're like, yeah, like, and then she goes and have sex with another man, and then she comes back and like, okay, well, tell me all about it. Like, oh, that was so good. Let me triple talaq you again.
Is he allowed to watch? Is he allowed to watch?
No, that's the problem. He's not allowed to watch, but maybe she is allowed to maybe talk about. I don't know. Yeah, she can come and describe it to him.
Hey now.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have another. Okay, we need a moment of Mufti Armin to make a decision because Asian American has a Sharia question. Mufti Armin, please give us your ruling. If a man took meds that made him lactate, can others drink from his breast milk and become siblings? Is there a gender stipulation of who can make breast milk? Mufti Armin, give us your fatwa.
Degenerates, of course. Only lactating men is it's a disease. It's a form of your body malfunctioning. And that's why the milk is not considered holy or spiritual in any way. Only milk from a woman's body has that spiritual effect because it's natural and in line with God's order.
Yeah. I'm high using the Mufti Armin emoji. Okay, so let's go to the last story that I'm very excited about because Armin and I were chatting about this when this first happened. And sometimes it takes a while for these things to come into English-speaking media so that we can talk about it. I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you ahead of time. Okay.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, wait, quick. Another super chat from Sid Dave saying, is it only breast milk or can any other body secretions you know from where also accepted? For the idea of the kinship? No.
Degenerate.
Yeah, exactly. Put them in their place, Armin. Come on.
Yeah.
So let's clap for this story.
All right. Can we? Oh, yes, we can. Next news. Hijabs off, handcuffs on. Iranian women shock by subverting holy procession. The Iranian authorities have taken swift action against a group of young women in Karaj who participated in an Ashura procession without wearing hijabs, sparking widespread reactions on social media. Ashura, which is a solemn day in the Shia Islamic calendar, commemorates the martyrdom of Hussein ibn Ali, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, during the Battle of Karbala. It is typically marked by mourning processions where participants wear black clothing and also involve usually like a beating of the chest, sometimes self-flagellation, that kind of thing. The incident in Karaj, which occurred on July 16th, was seen as particularly offensive because it appeared to disregard the religious and customary practices of Ashura. Hamid Hadavand, the chief police of Al-Borz province, stated, quote, given the release of a video on social media about the presence of several girls without hijab in the Ashura day of mourning and the harming of the religious feelings of Husseini mourners throughout the country, pursuing the issue was placed upon the agenda of the police officers of the province. This perceived violation of religious norms led to the identification and summoning of the women involved, highlighting the tension between religious observance, personal freedom, and state enforcement of dress codes in Iran. The crackdown also reflects the intensified enforcement of Iran's mandatory hijab law, underscoring the ongoing debate about religious expression and individual rights in the country. So,
Armin, this is a little bit niche, but this is very fun for the people who know what's going on. So let's watch the video of what happened. And then as this is playing, can you explain for people that don't know more about Ashura, explain why they're doing what they're doing, and then like how what these girls are doing is seen as so subversive, not only from the Islamic perspective, but also kind of from some secularist or atheist perspectives.
You know, this was a huge bombshell in Iranian social media. People from all sides were like, "Wow!" Some people were celebrating it. Some
WTF?
Some people were offended. Some atheists didn't know how to welcome this or not welcome this, right? But let me actually first know if you have audio.
Yes.
Do you have audio? Okay, so guys, let's watch this. And for you guys who know what's happening here, like I'm gonna see if people understand what the issue with this video is. So please let us know if you understand what the issue with this video is.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, you have no idea how many experts and social commentators. Yeah, this is Iran. This is in Iran. Okay, you have no idea how everybody's trying to analyze what the hell this means. Every single Iranian Islamic channel that I follow is like dissecting this. Every single anti-religion, anti-government, or like just like academic professors in sociology and everything, they're all commenting on this. On what does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? But this is insane. This is a new chapter in the meaning of religious rituals in Iran. And it's a symbol of a major shift, because a lot of other things have happening in Iran that shows this shift. But this video was like a bomb that exploded, and everybody's commenting on it, right? So do people
But break it down for us, because a lot of people don't understand, why are they hitting themselves? What are they hitting themselves with? Is it typical for women to do the self-flagellation? Why are they showing their hair? Okay.
Yeah, no, okay. So you just did a whole bunch of spoiler alerts for what I was gonna say. So Ashura is like a day that you remember the death of Hussein. And remember, this is Shia Islam. So Hussein is basically the main focus of Shia Islam. Remember, in Shia Islam, the main people that matter, the main entities that matter are not Muhammad and Allah. They're Hussein, Ali, and Fatima. They matter more than Allah and Muhammad, even if they don't admit that. And Hussein being the main person. Hussein died in a battle in Karbala, and his martyrdom is that event is central to Shia ideology. It's actually what made Shia Islam, was that event in that battle, right? So in Ashura, you're supposed to remember Hussein and his death and his martyrdom, and you're supposed to wear black, and you're supposed to come and mention his name and hit yourself, and also do this. This is called Zanjir Zani. Zenji Zeni means chain hitting, which you hit yourself with chain, remembering Hussein, right? So the most important thing, first of all, is that women don't do that, okay? Women in Ashura, they do not hit their chest, and they don't do Zenji Zeni. Women come around here, they cook food, they, give people water. They have so many other roles in Ashura, but participating in the events is definitely not one of them. Let alone without the hijab. Okay, so let me just tell you, without them participating in the event, just their presence for the past couple of weeks before we saw this video, this was already bombshell news. Like, this was already major news that people are showing up to Ashura without hijab. Like, the religious people were showing the videos. Like, this was like we must be dreaming, because even before this happening, they were saying this must be the end of times. Like, the Mahdi must be coming, not because they saw this. They said it's the end of times because we're seeing women without hijab just showing up at Ashura. Like, my entire childhood in Iran was the society being divided between the religious people and the non-religious people, mostly nationalist people. And they had their places and they had their other places, and they didn't like to commingle or anything like that. This is seen by religious people as an invasion of degeneracy on religious ground, in religious ceremonies, right? So some religious people are hating on this, and some atheist Iranian are hating on this. The religious Iranians who are hating on this, they're saying, like, what the hell? How is this happening? We were supposed to go to them and make them religious. Now they're making our Ashura irreligious. And why is this even being allowed? Who is moderating this Ashura, this Muharram ceremony? Why is nobody stopping them? Why are they not arrested? Like, they were wondering, why are people not being arrested just for showing up without it? Like, they were like, the audacity. Because after the Master Revolution, they were wondering why women without hijab are not being arrested in the streets. Now they're saying not only they're not arrested, they have the audacity to come in the most religious places without hijab. Like, let alone them existing without hijab in streets now, that being common now. They're so bold to just come into our spaces, and they're so not worried about being arrested that they're showing up in the most religious places without hijab. Like, what? They're like, what is this, an Islamic country anymore? We don't have to worry about just random women without hijab in the streets. They're coming into our mosques without hijab. They're coming into our Ashura ceremonies without hijab. And they're saying this is the end of times. Like, the Mahdi must be coming any time now if this is what's happening, right? So this is why...
Wrap it up.
Right? So this is why some religious people are angry. And some atheists are also angry. And they're like, why are liberal-minded hijabless women participating in religious ceremonies? Like, we're supposed... Like, women who are bold enough not to wear the hijab in a country where hijab is mandatory, why are they hitting themselves from Hussein? We hate Hussein. Like, screw Hussein. Why are you doing this? We're against Ashura. We're against the ceremonies. This is the Islamic Republic's ideology, and by your presence there, you're supporting it. So the atheists and the religious people, they disagree. And okay, so the atheists are having a conflict, and the religious people are having a conflict. The religious people are saying this is promoting degeneracy in the heart of Islamic ceremonies. Some religious people are saying, no, we should welcome this, because Hussein would have wanted us to make this ceremony open to sinners. These people are sinners. But look, even sinners love Hussein. Even sinners cry for Hussein. So we should welcome this. This shows that even some religious people, so the religious people are fighting. Some religious people say, like, we should celebrate this, because this shows that even the people who don't wear the hijab, they're still deep inside of them. they cry for Hussein, that they want Islam. So don't
Mhm.
judge people by what they're wearing, because there's always hope. These women there's these women, they look like sinners, but in their heart, they're still not lost. In their heart, they have, so there are some religious people are like, no, shut the hell up. Yes, Hussein would say that, yeah, we should allow sinners in. Oh, so this is what some religious people say, like, yes, we should allow everybody in the mosque. We should allow everybody in Ashura, including the sinners. But allowing in the sinners doesn't mean that they're allowed to sin while they're there. You should allow the sinners, but not allow them to sin while they're there. So yeah, we love the sinners, but we don't love their sin. We shouldn't let them be without hijab while they're in there, right? So that's a fight within the religious community. And the atheist community is also fighting, right? Some atheists, they say we should be against this because these hijabless women are supporting a religious ceremony. Some Iranian atheists. Some atheists, including me, are saying like, no, we're infiltrating the enemy. Okay, this is good. We are going to this is liberalism going into their ground. This is good. This shows that our domain is growing. They were trying to come to our domain, but now we're spreading liberalism into their domain. What I argued on my Persian channel is this is not reform, because a lot of people in Iran are anti-reform because they think reform means like keeping Islam alive. I argue that reform and secularization are two different processes, like two different phenomena. One of them is reform is basically changing the cover of Islam to keep the heart of Islam, right? Cutting the leaves to keep the root. Secularization is keeping the rituals, but removing the religion, secularizing it, removing the religious belief from it. And the example I gave on the Persian channel for why I celebrate this is I said people in Iran are doing to Ashura what people in Christian countries did to Christmas. They secularized it. I said, like, we should welcome this move. Just in the same way that Christmas is more about Santa Claus and the Christmas tree, we should secularize Ashura and other religious ceremonies in Iran to make it more about just a festival rather than it being about Hussein. We could turn the Hussein and these other things into myth, that people are there because people in Iran don't have that many excuses to come around and get around and do things together. So instead of destroying it, secularize it in the same way that Christmas is now secularized, right? So these people are there, they're not for Hussein. They just want to participate in community activities and be part of something. That's what they want to do. Let them do that, because it's more likely for these girls over there to make the Basiji boy become less Islamic than the Basiji boy is likely to make these girls Islamic. These girls will have him. Yeah, these girls will be able to make that religious boy in that ceremony to be less Islamic. That religious boy in the ceremony is not going to make these girls more Islamic. The effect is the other way around. So I celebrate this. But again, I just gave you a surface level of all the discussions that we have been having on the Persian side on this.
No, I love it. I can understand why for the, anti-regime, anti-Islamic segment of the Iranian population, they're like, what the hell? Isn't this what we're trying to get away from? Why did these like liberal presenting women, like why are they participating in this, and so forth? But I'm like, this is so I just really enjoy things that subvert religious myth and tradition. And this is part of why, like, I have no problem with the Last Supper, like drag performance in Paris. Like, this is, I love these subversive activities that challenge our beliefs about what is normative, what is traditional, who gets to participate in them, what does it mean to participate in them, the roles that are dictated around these things, and just flipping that on its head is so interesting and fun and like intellectually stimulating. So when I first saw this and I sent it to Armin, I was like, not gonna lie, this is kind of cool.
By the way, these girls were arrested because this was such a.
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of most girls without hijab are not being arrested in Iran because there's just too many. But these girls were arrested because this was such a major news in Iran, and also that those people who are organizing this Ashura ceremony thing, their license to do this was taken away from them. So there's also that. I just wanted to make sure.
Well,
So yeah. But yeah, this is huge. This is a huge people because, by the way, even when I was like 20 years ago in Iran, when I was like, I still remember many boys going to Ashura, not for religious reasons, but because there are girls who show up there watching boys taking off their shirts and hitting their chest. And there are certain boys that like had no religious beliefs, but they participated because they know there will be girls watching. So
hell yeah.
I remember so I think like it's possible to turn these events into something else, like slowly, like just like Christmas and stuff. Yeah.
I remember seeing little Iranian cartoons and like comics, and it's all these girls like showing up to Ashura, and it's a guy who's like all muscular, like hitting himself, looking at them like,
yeah. There's actually a thing that you're supposed to lift. It's very, very heavy.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
and every year they make it bigger and bigger to like, and there's certain guys that exercise all year to be able to lift that to show girls how strong they are, and they specifically want that job. And there's also a huge giant ass drum that like a lot of boys like try to compete to do that because it's a big drum, and if you hit it, you just look cool. So there's
yeah,
that
brother.
well.
I love that it just like turns into like a low key strongman contest.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Oh wow, some Israeli woman in the live chat are asking me to take my shirt off. So,
oh, hello.
This is the cultural connection between Israel and Iran that we need. This is fantastic.
Oh, I want to find this little comic of the guy hitting himself. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, find that. That's pretty good.
Oh man, I'm not going to be able to find it in time.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, damn. Instead, there's like some anime that keeps coming up.
Maybe. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I've seen that.
I can't spell. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it today.
Find it for our next show. Find it. Send it to me because I want to show it on my shows as well.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of our show today, everybody. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this stream, recommend it to a friend, because that's one of the best ways to keep the show growing, support the work of Atheist Republic and our team, because it's not just me and Armin. And make sure to subscribe, because I already have a few juicy stories selected for next week that we really need to unpack. And I'm going to give a teaser, Armin, for one of the ones that we need to dig into. And the teaser is that Uzbekistan has banned cousin marriages.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Uzbekistan keeps, yeah, okay, that's pretty.
So
cool.
we're gonna dig into stuff like that next week, and if people don't understand why that's relevant, we will make sure to tell you why that's relevant.
Yeah, that's very relevant too. By the way, Pakistan, when is that going to happen? I think it's going to be too late for Pakistan whenever that happens. I don't know. No comments.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen.
Why would? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, guys. Like the stream. Leave a comment after the show is over. Recommend this channel if it's safe to your friends and enemies and also strangers. It's very easy. Just go say, "Hey, sir. Hey, ma'am. Atheist Republic on YouTube," and then they're gonna say, "Who are you and why are you talking to me? And what are you talking about?" And you would just say, "Don't worry about it. Just go find Atheist Republic on YouTube." And then they're going to say, "Get away from me. I don't know you." And then you should get away, because if you continue after that, that will be harassment. Okay? But just go tell people to subscribe to Atheist Republic on YouTube and leave a comment here. That will help the channel. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new here, hit the bell notification, and then what else? That's it. That's it. But don't recommend our channel if you live in an Islamic country or if it's unsafe for you in any way. Okay? Yes. Thank you, guys. Bye.